Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Gaspard, and I'm honored to serve as chair of the Commission on Government Efficiency. This is the 10th and final public hearing of this commission. Over the course of the last many weeks, my fellow commissioners and I have heard from a cross section of New Yorkers in all five boroughs. We've received in-person testimony, written or in-person testimony from 650 New Yorkers. Counting you, we are at over 1,000 participants in these hearings. And after tonight, we will have engaged in over 30 hours of direct engagement with this extraordinary city of ours on these pressing issues. Our mission, our mandate is to do a top to bottom review of the New York City Charter to determine how we work with everyday New Yorkers to create the 21st century government that you all deserve, one that's so much more efficient, impactful, it manages to bring costs down for all New Yorkers, makes it possible for us to have more affordable housing in this city, more affordable groceries, transit that is faster and more accessible, and that creates the public infrastructure that we are deserving of. After we've reviewed all this testimony, we will, as a commission, make a set of recommendations to the mayor and this administration, to the agency commissioners, and they will in turn work to craft questions that will be taken up on the ballot in November. If all of New York, or the majority of New Yorkers who participate in the November elections, agree with those recommendations and those ballot initiatives, they then have the full force of law. I'm confident that I speak for my fellow commissioners when I say that this is independent, nonpartisan commission that is receiving all of your testimony without favor or bias. We're relying on our good judgment and our collective shared values. Joining me in this inspiring task are 14 other commissioners: Vice Chair Emma Wolf, Secretary Susan Kang, Malco Carrion, Henry Garrido, Kapil Longani, Theodore Moore, Anna Oliveira, Carlina Rivera, Esther Rosario, Mark Shore, Kathy Wild. Attending virtually tonight are Commissioners Ruth Messenger and Barika Williams, and absent from tonight's proceedings is Commissioner Dawn Pinnock. Although, as I said, we are conducting a top to bottom review of the entire city charter, we are looking in particular at processes and procedures built into our charter that could be updated to deliver the government that you are all deserving of. Today, we are focused on outdoor dining and street safety. Outdoor dining and street safety projects are essential features of our public spaces. Public space in New York City is our collective connective tissue. If we did not understand that many years ago, that came home hard for all of us in stark relief during the pandemic. The places where we see each other, places where we hear each other, places that should be democratizing forces for all of us. We spend so much time navigating our streets together, and their functionality, their safety, their cleanliness have to contribute to livability in this city. Tonight, we'll hear from New Yorkers who are experts, and New Yorkers who are expert because of the experiences that they have in our streets, for their very best ideas on how we improve outdoor dining and street safety. That being said, even though I'm stressing that particular focus of this hearing, we are welcoming testimony from all New Yorkers who have ideas about efficiencies, innovations, or reforms that are charter specific. So I'm very much looking forward to all of the contributions that we'll hear in this room and from our friends and neighbors online. I just want to give you a sense of how this particular hearing will unfold. Tonight, we're privileged to hear from Small Business Services Commissioner Kenny Minaya, who is going to share his expert testimony on the experiences that small business owners are having with the outdoor dining system. He'll have 5 minutes to present his testimony, followed by questions from this commission. We also will hear from elected officials who are present in the room or who attend online. I know that my good friend, City Council member Lincoln Ressler, is line, and he'll be a virtual participant. So as soon as we begin the hearing, I'll probably turn to the council member first. For all members of public who are joining us and who would love to be able to testify tonight, please know that you have 3 minutes to make your presentation. I'll call you up in pairs, whether it's in the room or virtually. There's a clock here that gives you a sense of how long you've been speaking. And we're going to be really strict in adhering to those 3 minutes. And I'll stress to you that if the thing you want to say has already been said, you might decide to abbreviate some of your testimony. The 3 minutes are not a requirement. That's a ceiling. Um, so we'll call you 2 at a time. If you wish to testify virtually, please complete the RSVP form that's on our website, which we'll share in the chat room right now. Once you're ready to speak, please raise your hands in Zoom and we'll call on you when it's your turn. We're going to do everything that we can to hear from everyone who signs up to testify, but we have to leave this space at 8 p.m. tonight. So work with me. If we're efficient, then everybody will have their fair turn. Before we proceed any further and launch into the formal public hearing, I would just like to ask my commissioners for a motion to approve the minutes from our July 6th Staten Island hearing and our July 8th Manhattan hearing. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. The minutes have been approved. So as I noted, we have expert testimony that we will receive from the Commissioner of Small Businesses, but I want to turn to the virtual room and ask our friend Councilmember Lincoln Rustler to please join us and participate and to give us his best 3 to 4 minutes of thinking on our business of charter reform.
Well, thank you so much, Chair Gaspard and Vice Chair Wolf and all the distinguished members of this commission. You guys have really put together an exceptional blue ribbon panel, and it is a privilege to join you this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to offer some testimony. You know, our last major charter review was in '89 on the heels of one of the worst corruption scandals in our city's history during the third term of the Koch administration. And the '89 Charter Revision Commission fundamentally reshaped city government, strengthened the powers of the council, and over the past 35 years, we have seen the powers of the council slowly shrink. This became more apparent during the corruption of the Eric Adams administration. This scandal-ridden administration led to unending investigations that still continue to this very day, and an unprecedented exodus of senior officials following allegations of impropriety. Beyond the documented corruption, the administration was plagued by a pervasive view that they were above the law. They refused to implement local laws, pass endless emergency executive orders, restricted elected officials from meeting with city agencies, and so much more. We are deeply grateful that the Mamdani administration is committed to ethical good governance and has appointed such an impressive group of commissioners to lead this charter review. And while I trust and respect the leadership of the Mamdani administration, our charter must be designed to withstand the next corrupt administration. And I'm concerned that some of the proposals, while practical on paper, could limit the ability of the council to prevent future corruption in the years to come. For example, I'm concerned that the proposal to remove the council's authority over the building code. DOB has an unfortunate history with corruption under many past mayors, and the city council is committed to working closely with DOB to efficiently review any needed code changes. I'm also concerned that the proposal on disposition and rental of city properties could be abused in the future. The real estate division at DCAS, as we all know, has wide latitude and authority to implement its policies and was deeply corrupt under Eric Adams, including steering leases to mayoral donors. I do not believe it would be wise to entirely remove outside reviews and approvals of DCAS's work by the council unless other independent oversight is embedded to restore trust in the decision-making of the DCAS real estate team. And lastly, I'm concerned about the proposals regarding the rainy day fund. The council received testimony at a hearing on the charter commissions in October 24, which I chaired actually, that emphasized the need to strengthen, not weaken, the council's role in the budget process. Charter commissions have become increasingly common the past few years, largely driven by political agendas. But it's important to remember that their intended purpose is to address fundamental issues in the balance of power as set out by the Charter that actually require a referendum, and not to replace the legislative or executive functions of the city. Reflecting on the 89 Charter Revision Commission, Fritz Schwartz noted, quote, "A charter commission's job is to provide a structure and process for governmental decision making, not to make the decisions itself. A commission is not a legislature, nor should it act as one." Now, there are several proposals in the draft report that I believe would be best addressed through legislative action and rulemaking, and I'd like to highlight a few of them if until you tell me that I need to stop talking. So firstly, the council is actively working on legislation.
I think you have about 45 seconds, council
Okay,
member.
all right, then I'll go fast, and I appreciate it very much. Um, the the council is actively working on legislation to restore open dining to year round. We're hoping to vote on it in weeks, not months. And we are eager to work with DOT to improve their administration of the program and timely processing of applications. While I am supportive of amending notification methods to modernize the process, I am concerned that changes to the current approval process could jeopardize the restoration of year-round outdoor dining and our ability to pass legislation on a very aggressive timeline. The commission has rightly pointed out some flaws in the city's revocable consent process, and I hope that a future commission can conduct a more in-depth study of this process and develop more holistic recommendations to reform the system instead of ad hoc changes. The council has also worked to amend the approval process for major transportation projects, including legislation that I passed to streamline the approval of bike lanes. Community feedback on transportation projects is critical, and I'd be happy to work with the administration to further amend this process legislatively while ensuring robust and timely community notifications remain. I have urged the FDNY to commit to a 30-day timeframe to provide feedback to DOT on bike lane proposals, but they have refused. I hope that City Hall will work this out with their agencies. I do just want to note in conclusion, because I know time is tight, that um, the work of the Rabrick Commission has been effective at eliminating outdated reports. I would be really concerned about automating a sunset provision for important reports that the council receives. And as chair of the Contracts Committee, I'm committed to improving our procurement process and would welcome further information or details on the Commission's procurement proposals. I would really encourage that the Mamdani administration actually implement Local Law 169, which is intended to set crisp timelines and benchmarks for every single stage in the procurement process to ensure timely registration of contracts. I really appreciate the hard work of this commission and the ability to share a few thoughts with you this evening. Our charter must be strong enough to withstand the next corrupt administration. And I hope that the recommendations we make keep that in mind. Thanks so much for your consideration and appreciate the chance to say hello.
We appreciate you, council member. My apologies for having to cut your time short. It's only because we're doing all we can to advantage public participation tonight. Council member, please stay with us because I see that we've been joined by council member Frank Morano, and I hope that after we hear from him, you can be available in case our commissioners have any questions for both of you. Council member, thank you for joining us from Staten Island.
Thank you, Chair Gaspard. And one day I hope our relationship matures to the point where I get introduced, as my colleague from Brooklyn did, as my good friend and our good friend. But I'll continue to strive for that until we get.
Lincoln and I go way back. That's all.
I'm hoping we get there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we get there. Thank you, everybody. And as many of you know, my name's Frank Morano, and I have the privilege of representing the 51st Council District on Staten Island in the New York City Council. Before I begin, I want to thank you sincerely for all the time and effort, and all the time and effort that the staff has devoted to this entire process. I've been attending Charter Revision Commission hearings for more than 20 years. I suppose that either makes me deeply committed to good government or someone who's in desperate need of a hobby. I had hoped to testify at your last Staten Island hearing, and I did have Ralph's ISIS, as promised, ready to go. But my wife, with her impeccable timing, gave birth to our daughter that day. So I submitted written testimony instead, which I hope you'll review. And in consideration of your time and the public's, I am going to significantly abridge my remarks, but I do hope you'll review the written testimony. Tonight's my first opportunity to offer my thoughts on the preliminary report that you guys have put together. After reading it closely, my honest reaction is that I have mixed feelings. And first, let me say that I think what I think the report gets right, which I think is substantial. I appreciate that the commission isn't pretending city government is perfect, which is a glaring omission that a lot of previous commissions have made. It identifies real problems that New Yorkers deal with every day. I think you're exactly right that permitting often takes too long. You're right that procurement is cumbersome. You're right that city agencies still operate with outdated technology that doesn't communicate well across government. And you're right that some administrative requirements have become seriously outdated over time. I think those are real problems, and I appreciate that you're trying to solve them. Where we differ is less about the diagnosis than about some of the proposed cures. One thing that struck me as I read the report is that it often reads more like a menu of possibilities than a set of concrete recommendations. Throughout the report, the Commission says it may consider various actions, but the public still doesn't know exactly what many of the proposed charter changes will look like. I imagine that'll come out as we get closer to you guys putting questions on the ballot. That's one reason I've encouraged this commission to become a 2-year commission. And the city charter is, in many respects, New York City's constitution. It deserves careful consideration, not an accelerated timetable that leaves important questions unresolved. Councilman Ressler referenced that 89 commission. And I think part of the work it did, part of the reason it did such great work is because it was a 2-year commission. I also believe we should be careful not to frame this as a choice between efficiency and democracy, because it doesn't have to be. We ought to be able to build a government that's faster and more responsive without making it less transparent or less accountable. I totally support genuine efficiency. I support cutting red tape, making it easier for homeowners and small businesses to navigate city government, which can make you dizzy. But efficiency shouldn't become a substitute for accountability. When government hears fewer voices, publishes less information, or reduces meaningful public review, that isn't necessarily efficiency. Sometimes it's simply just less democracy. That's why I'm concerned about suggestions that could weaken review of major transportation projects. If the city believes those laws need updating, that's a conversation worth having, as Councilman Ressler stated, through the normal legislative process. But charter revision shouldn't become a backdoor for making it easier to implement major street redesigns or busways or bike lane projects while reducing meaningful neighborhood input. Likewise, I'm skeptical of
Council
proposals.
member, forgive me for noting that you're close to at time.
Got it. I hope you'll review my written testimony. I do also want to make a plea with you to please put my community board reform question on the ballot. As I've testified before, I believe council members should appoint up to 1/2 of the members of their community boards. Reasonable people can disagree with that proposal, but some of you may think it's a great idea. Some of you may disagree. That's okay. What I'm asking you is not that you agree with me. I'm asking you to trust the voters enough to let them decide. Community boards are supposed to be the public's front door to local government. How they're appointed is an important question. Let them make it. And if you put any other questions on the ballot, that prevents us in the council from putting this question on the ballot this year. Please don't let that happen. I believe community board reform is one of those questions that the public really needs to weigh in on. Thank you again for your work. Thank you for your patience with me, for your willingness to listen, and for the opportunity to testify. Please read my written remarks.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember, for participating, for submitting written remarks, and thank you for accompanying us on this journey with the public. This is the 3rd time that we've been able to engage with you. I would be calling you old friend now if you had delivered those ices, but congratulations for the Nacito del Bambino. Really, congrats. All right. So, commissioners, any questions for our 2 members of the City Council? Theo, please.
Good evening. Thank you both for testifying. And council member, well, congratulations. And I'm working my way through the list of recommended restaurants on Staten Island. I'm considering you like my personal like Zagat's from now on. Just was wondering, in the area of just removing some of the powers of from the council, do you have any alternatives or addendums to our suggestions, specifically around oversight of DCAS proposals, that you would recommend, or is it just leave it as it currently is?
Sorry. Okay, am I mute? I'll defer to Lincoln first if he wants to answer. He's a little smarter than me. Otherwise, if
I'm-
he
No,
go
that's
ahead.
untrue, but I'm happy. Go ahead, Frank, after you.
All right. So I think there are alternatives that accomplish some of the same goals without simply removing the council from the process. One would be creating a tiered review system. A routine office lease renewal or a minor property disposition shouldn't necessarily go through the same level of scrutiny as a major land transaction with significant neighborhood impacts. The process should be proportional to the decision being made. I think another option would be establishing statutory deadlines. If the concern is that council review adds unnecessary delay, then require the council to act within a defined period, or the item moves automatically. That preserves democratic accountability while addressing the concerns about timing. I also think technology can replace some bureaucracy without replacing public input. Better electronic notice, online tracking, greater transparency, that would all improve efficiency while actually increasing public participation. So my concern isn't that every existing review process is perfect, far from it. It's that we shouldn't equate efficiency with eliminating checks and balances. I think we can modernize government while preserving meaningful oversight.
Great. And I really appreciate that question. Commissioner Moore, always good to see you. And echo many of Councilmember Morano's sentiments. I would say broadly that if the council had a lesser role or was not as involved in the lease agreement process, I think that would be pretty reasonable. We're brought in at the very end of a process that's already baked, and we're put in a very funky position where an agency needs space and we basically have to just sign off on it, and it's too late to do much of anything about it. I would be concerned about changes to dispositions, which is a permanent decision and one that we want to make sure is done right. If there's an issue with a lease agreement that DCAS signs, it could be expensive, but the city can break a lease. You can't go back on a disposition. And we have an opportunity with dispositions to make sure that public land is fully benefiting our communities in the best possible ways. And I think that our input there is really important, and our community's input there is really important. Whereas I think streamlining the lease process makes a lot of sense. You could do an expedited ULURP on dispositions that still has the council involved at the conclusion. And I would recommend something along those lines if you're looking to streamline that process.
Great. Thank you both, council members. We've of course received your testimony. We'll review it. And to my good friend in Staten Island, please know, as we say in the old world, the carrot is not cooked here. We've received a set of recommendations, a memorandum from the staff. There's been public transparency, but this is still a work in progress, and we appreciate both your inputs and your insistence on continued engagement. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It appears that our SBS commissioner has not yet arrived, and so I'm going to move directly to hearing from the public. I'd like to invite Edgar Alfonseca and Najee Rain to join us at the front of the room. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Edgar
Yeah.
and Najee or Najee Rain. What is your name? And the last name? No, that's not the name. But I will I'll call in Najee Rain's place Nyla Caicedo Rosario. Thank you. Please, Edgar.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. My name is Edgar Alfonseca. I'm the chair of Transportation, Public Transit, Street Safety for Queens Community Board 6, which is covering Forest Hills Regal Park. But I'm just testifying tonight, expressing my own personal views, not the views of the community board. Pleased to be here. And I'm here to basically ask the commission to seriously take into consideration doing whatever you can or to get rid of the red tape that stands in the way for communities like mine to expand bike lane infrastructure and also street safety design in our communities. When it comes to bike lanes, so this community just recently got City Bike. And even though New York City DOT did not seed a single dock that was installed here over the last few months, every dock I passed by was fully seated or like they had bikes in them. And that's because people from that live in the community were bringing bikes back into the community, which is for me a clear demonstration that people are really using bikes in our community and that there's a demand for expanding our bike lane infrastructure here. And lastly, I'm a parent of a 4-year-old and I'm raising my kid here. And street safety is really important to me. I really care about people feeling safe when they cross the street. And I only recently, a few months ago, I was at a rally here at Fleet and Alderton Street in Rego Park. And parents and even representatives of elected officials were there to support the idea of implementing street safety design measures in that intersection. And there are a lot of daycares in that intersection, 3Ks and 4Ks. And unfortunately, even though the DOT is milling that area right now as we speak, there's no indication they're going to install any street safety design measures in that intersection. So we're putting families at risk unnecessarily. And I have to believe that it has to do with the major transportation infrastructure laws that are in place, that were put in place during the Bloomberg era administration. So I really kindly ask all of you to take into consideration communities like mine, which are fighting for, these infrastructure improvements, but we just have a lot of red tape and laws getting in the way of allowing us to do so. So thank you all for your time today.
Thank you.
All I have.
Thank you. Nyla?
Hi, Nyla.
Please, please stay with us, Edgar. There may be questions from the commission.
Of course, sorry. Didn't know that part.
No problem. Hi, my name is Nyla Caicedo Rosario. I am the National Policy Director and New York State Director for One Fair Wage. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today. I prepared testimony, so I just want to make sure I hit all my points, so I'll read from it. So One Fair Wage is a national organization that is working to ensure that every worker earns a full living wage with tips on top. Instead of just poverty wages. Every day we hear from restaurant workers, from salon workers, from car wash workers, from delivery workers, from retail workers, and from other low wage workers in New York. And they're doing everything right. They're working hard, often multiple jobs, and they still cannot afford to live in a city which they help to power. As you review the New York City Charter, we really urge you to recommend a charter amendment that would establish a clear principle that New York City should not issue outdoor business licenses for businesses that do not pay a fair wage. The charter is a city's government document, and it should reflect the values of New Yorkers that expect from the government. We already require businesses to comply with health codes, with fire codes, with zoning regulations and labor laws in order to operate. Ensuring that businesses pay a living wage should be viewed as another basic condition for doing business in the city of New York. As a outdoor business license is more than just an administrative permit. It's the city's authorization to participate in our economy. The city should not extend that privilege to employers whose business models depend on wages that leave workers unable to afford housing, food, transportation, or childcare. Access across the country, we've seen that employers invest in fair wages and experience lower turnover. They improve recruitment, they have higher productivity, and they have stronger customer satisfaction. New York City has been a national leader for advancing policies to promote public health, worker protection, and economic opportunities. The commission has the opportunity right now to continue that legacy by recommending that the charter amendment make it that the privilege of having an outdoor business license in our city is the responsibility of, people should get paid enough to live in the city that they work for. On behalf of One Fair Wage and the thousands of workers that are responsible and the responsible employers that we represent across New York State, I respectfully urge the commission to place this proposal before the voters. New York City deserves the opportunity to decide whether businesses seeking the privilege to operate outdoor license should really meet the responsibility of paying a living wage. Thank you for your time and your leadership and your commitment to building a city government that works for all neighbors.
Thank you so very much for your testimony. Commissioners, questions? Please do.
Nyla, just a quick question. We've had the opportunity to hear from a lot of restaurant owners and small businesses about the process of obtaining these licenses and how they're really operating very much in the margin. So I would love to hear how you or if you have information of how specifically a living wage would affect these small business owners.
Yep, for sure. So, as you know, we're a national organization, and California small businesses have been paying a fair wage for years. They've been paying right now. They do $20 an hour plus tips on top, and the businesses in California have been thriving. In Chicago, we've just recently passed it as well, and the businesses in Chicago are thriving. The restaurant industry is already moving to voluntarily do full wages with tips at top across the country. And we really do feel that in New York, it's definitely possible and doable. We have a study that I could share via email with the commission, so you guys can see it. But this is something that the time is due right now. We just passed in Alameda County. We're about to pass $30 an hour plus tips on top. So the fact that New York is only $17 is really a shame. So anything that we can do to help, and we're more than glad to share the report with the commission.
Other questions? Please, Henry.
Do you have a suggested amount? Since you mentioned the $30 an hour?
So we are supporting the 30 in our city, but across the country, the number that we're looking at is 25 an hour.
$25.
25.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your testimony. Thank you. Jeffrey Brown and May Frank. Jeffrey and May. Thank you, Jeffrey. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Gaspard, Vice Chair Wolf, Secretary Kang, and Commissioners. My name is Jeff Brown. From 2016 to 2022, I was Chief Information Security Officer for the City of New York and the founding head of New York City Cyber Command. I'm here tonight as the person who helped build the city's cyber defense and to ask you to protect it. In 2017, New York did something the rest of the world was still figuring out. We built New York City Cyber Command with a real authority and a direct line to the city's most senior leaders. The official who owns cyber risk must be able to say no. The official needs to mandate fixes, to slow a project down, to escalate over any objection when the city's safety is at stake. You cannot do that job from underneath the people you are meant to be holding to account. New York even wrote the office into the charter in 2020, but the charter only requires that the office exist. It says nothing to stop that office from being buried inside another department or to guarantee the city's cybersecurity chief has a direct line to the top. So in 2022, the office was moved inside the technology department, and the city's cybersecurity chief was told to report to the technology chief. The safeguard was placed under the very operation it exists to check. The charter did not prevent that. I know this commission's job is efficiency, so let me meet you there. Cybersecurity is not an IT service. It is an enterprise risk and is as serious as the city's financial or physical safety. And in the moment that decides everything, such as a live attack that could halt city services, the most expensive thing you can have is confusion about who's in charge. Independence of authority is not an efficiency. My ask is concrete, and it needs no new agency. The office is already in the charter. Strengthen the language to protect what matters. Name a commissioner level, commissioner titled official to own cyber risk. Guarantee that official a reporting line independent of IT delivery and require public audible reporting on the city's cyber posture. New York led the world on this once. Other municipalities and states recognize New York City's leadership. Governments abroad studied what we built. I would ask you to not let New York quietly dismantle the very model that others copied. Secure New York City's cybersecurity agency's independence in the charter where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. May.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Mai Franke. I'm the Queens organizer with Transportation Alternatives. We're the organization that helped bring Vision Zero to New York because we know that every traffic fatality or a serious injury is a design, infrastructure, or policy failure. I am here to talk about the need for New York City to speed up safety redesigns on our streets. Every year, more than 200 New Yorkers are killed in preventable traffic crashes. This statistic should be unacceptable, and in other cities, it is. In London, for example, it has a traffic death rate that's half of what we have here. If New York City could manage its streets as efficiently as they do, we could be saving 100 lives a year by only having it, not even reducing it to zero. Right now, the Department of Transportation is unable to effectively address this public health crisis for an entirely avoidable reason, because street redesign projects that should take only a few months end up taking many years, thanks to mountains of red tape. As a Queens resident, we've seen countless examples of these delays. The redesign of Queens Boulevard, for example, a capital project that was presented to community boards all the way back in 2018, was meant to break ground in 2022. That timeline got pushed back to 2025. Now we're halfway through 2026 and we still haven't seen any progress on the project. We are 4 years past when this capital project was supposed to break ground, which was already 4 years behind when the plan was first presented to the community. Meanwhile, New Yorkers and Queens residents wait and put their lives at risk while we wait for the DOT to implement these projects. Projects that we can wait 8, 10 years, over decades. In the greatest city in the world, it should not take almost a decade to begin construction and a street redesign. There's countless of examples of this. Queens Boulevard, Northern Boulevard, 31st Street, Queensboro Bridge, Triborough, which the list goes on and on. In the greatest city in the world, it should not take this long. The Department of Transportation must be freed up so that they can actually implement upgrades in a timely fashion. This new administration has an enormous opportunity to transform our streets. DOT has the power to save lives, to speed up bus commutes, and to create a city where people feel safe enough to choose to bike to work or walk to school and save thousands of dollars a year that it costs to own a car. In order to fulfill these goals, the city needs to greatly shorten these timelines for implemented, tested, standard redesigns of our streets. We are not reinventing the wheel, folks. We just need to make it turn faster. I strongly recommend that the city reform the major transportation projects process. New York City must meet the legal requirements of the Streets Plan and renew its dedication to achieving Vision Zero, the future when zero New Yorkers will die preventable deaths at our streets. In order to actually reach these goals, we can wait years to get common sense projects in the ground. Thank you.
Thank you both. Commissioners, questions? Please.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Could you give some examples, something we could think of to actually implement in the charter to get at some of the things you talked about?
The DOT takes a long time, and some of these processes aren't entirely transparent. It's unclear why sometimes projects like Queensboro Bridge, which have been approved to go down underground, can take 8 to 9 months to update street markings. These are processes that are not necessarily known to communities, to community boards. Sometimes it'll have backing by the community boards, and we will not know why they're not implemented. So I think transparency is a major issue as well.
Additional questions, comments? Thank you both for your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
In addition to the Commissioner of Small Business Services, Kenny Minaya, we've also been joined by Councilmember Phil Wong. I'd like to invite both the Commissioner and the Councilmember to join us at the front of the room. Good evening, Commissioner. How are you? We'll hear first from the Commissioner and then the Councilman.
Sure. Thank you, everybody. Good evening, Chair, Executive Director, and distinguished members of the Commission. My name is Kenny Minaya, and I serve as Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. At SBS, we aim to deliver economic security for all New Yorkers by connecting them to good jobs, supporting small businesses, and investing in our neighborhoods. I'm pleased to join today to share how this Commission's work can usher us into a new era for small businesses in New York City. Before I start, I want to express my gratitude for the members of the public who carved out time from their busy schedules and testified today in Queens and earlier in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and Manhattan. My focus before this commission today is on streamlining the city's outdoor dining program, Dining Out NYC, and I want to thank the commission for including dining out within their preliminary report. The promise of outdoor dining is simple: ample seating for restaurant goers, expanded revenue opportunities for restaurants, and new third spaces beautifying our public realm and activating our streets. Outdoor dining has a positive economic impact on neighborhoods with more capacity to serve customers, small businesses, staff up to meet demand and create new jobs. However, as you may well know, administrative and bureaucratic bottlenecks enshrined in the law impede program success. This past April, I joined a roundtable with Deputy Mayor Julie Su, which convened New York City restaurateurs to discuss their pain points. In addition to the larger affordability crisis faced by small businesses, several businesses pointed out the complex and arduous permitting process for outdoor dining. Businesses raised concerns around roadway and sidewalk cafes having different processes and the lengthy community review periods. Any delay carries real consequences for participating restaurants who may miss peak seasons during warmer months and lose revenue from not being able to add seating capacity while waiting for mandated review periods to lapse. The city and SBS's programming attempts to mitigate the confusion within this process. Alongside the Department of Transportation, SBS provides application support through our NYC Business Express Service Team, or NYC BEST. We also develop tools to help businesses understand the material costs of outdoor dining and if the program and whether the program is right for them. However, even with assistance, the process itself is complex with dual processes for revocable consents for roadway and sidewalk cafes. Any small business interested in participating as a sidewalk cafe must first submit an extensive application with DOT. After small businesses submit their materials, DOT reviews and disseminates the complete applications to the relevant community board, borough president, and city council for additional review. Community boards then have 40 days to conduct or waive a hearing and submit recommendations to DOT. DOT holds a hearing for each application where DOT approves of modifications, or denies the application. Upon DOT's approval, the city council has the authority to call up the application, meaning it can resolve to review the application. Upon doing so, council has 45 days to approve or disapprove the application. The council rarely uses this authority, which applies only to sidewalk cafes, but the obligation to file with the council while it determines whether review delays the application. Should the business be approved, they then require city comptroller registration. For businesses interested in participating as a roadway cafe, the process differs. Community boards and the city council are provided with notification and are not tasked with conducting a hearing or voting on the matter. We strongly support a city charter amendment to streamline the outdoor dining permitting process. The current process generates confusion, discourages participation, and hinders the success of small businesses. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Council member?
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Phil Wang. I represent the 30th Council District in Queens, which includes all of Maspeth and Middle Village and parts of Elmhurst, Ridgewood, Glendale, and Rico Park. I am submitting this supplementary testimony because the Commission's preliminary report released on July 2nd, 2026 raises new proposals that demand a direct response. There are proposals in the preliminary report that deserve genuine support. Maximizing the use of technology across city agencies, reducing paper filings, modernizing procurement, and speeding up inspections are common sense. I support these directions and urge the Commission to develop concrete, actionable proposals. I also continue to stand by the 12 recommendations I submitted in June. Honest multi-year budget baselines, school consolidation for campuses with fewer than 100 students, ending the whole harmless phantom funding policy, reforming homeless shelter spending to require cost effectiveness reviews and outcome benchmarks, ending the backdoor water bill tax, property tax equity for Queens homeowners, and putting sanctuary city law reform on the ballot for New Yorkers to decide. Those recommendations stand. This supplemental testimony addresses what the preliminary report got wrong. And due to time limits, I'll name one topic. Department of Buildings permit reform requires a critical distinction. The preliminary report identifies streamlining Department of Buildings permitting as a goal. I understand the frustration. Small businesses in Maspeth and Ridgewood wait months for permits that should take weeks. That backlog is real and it costs jobs and investment and many empty storefronts. I support targeted reforms to speed up routine commercial and residential permitting. But streamlining must not become a shortcut that bypasses environmental and community protections for larger, higher impact projects. My district is living through exactly what happens when that line is crossed. 9 Energy is constructing a lithium-ion battery energy storage system at 6430 69th Place in Middle Village, directly across the street from PS 128, next to a daycare center, a preschool, and a residential neighborhood. The community received no notification when permits were being processed. There were no public hearings, no community board notifications, no transparency from the company or city agencies. The project proceeded as of right under City of Yes for carbon neutrality zoning changes, which we removed the community voice entirely. This is not a permitting efficiency problem. This is a DOB oversight failure, and is exactly the kind of failure that gets worse, not better, if we reduce DOB's review obligations in the name of speed. The charter and any DOB reform must draw a clear and enforceable distinction between 2 categories of projects. The first is a small business opening, a routine renovation, or a standard residential project, where the city's goal should be to cut red tape aggressively and get permits processed in days, not months. The second is a large-scale facility that poses potentially environmental, safety, or community impact concerns, particularly those cited near schools, residential areas, or locations with prior environmental contaminations. For those projects, the permitting process must include mandatory phase 2 environmental review before any construction permit is issued when a phase 1 has identified recognized environmental conditions. It must
Council member,
yes,
I'd like to just encourage you to wrap up.
I
because
will
it's
wrap up. Yes,
almost 5
I'll wrap up, and the rest it's on the written statement I submitted. Given DOB a blanket mandate to process permits faster without this distinction built in will produce more 9 situations, not fewer. I urge the commission to be specific about what it is streamlining and for whom. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilman. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, questions, please, Henry.
Thank you both for your testimony, Commissioner Minaya. This commission has heard ample testimony from business owners expressing frustration after frustration and money spent in the permitting processes that we heard from multiple places in different locations. You said you supported some charter amendment to speed up the process. My question to you is what are the specific recommendations you have for a charter amendment in order to, lead with that frustration that we heard during the testimony?
Thank you for the question. I think a good place to start, in my testimony, I outlined the successive reviews that are required under the current process. And I think a public input is important, but that a public hearing should suffice, right? That we don't need as many successive reviews from multiple levels of government. A goal of permitting should always be to set a strong foundation for what the rules are and what an acceptable application is, and standardize things as much as possible so that they can be processed as quickly as possible.
Additional questions, please, Malcolm.
Hey, Commissioner, I know the city council is actively pushing and considering legislation that would eliminate the tear down requirements. So how would your suggestions impact that legislation? How would they speak to each other?
I missed the first part of your question.
So
Eliminate.
the city council, I know, is considering legislation to eliminate the tear down requirements for roadway structures. How would your suggestions, what you've testified on today, how would that impact that legislation?
I'm not familiar with that specific legislation. I know there's a separate package that's moving through city council that we are supportive of, but that specific bill, I'm not familiar.
That's red tape, Bill.
But red tape, I like cutting red tape. Yeah.
Speaker Menon just had a press conference about that today.
That was today. I had not had a chance to review that bill, unfortunately.
Additional questions? Hearing none, I want to just express appreciation, gratitude, council member and commissioner for this testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brendan Griffith, Kevin Lachiera. Brendan Griffith, Kevin Lachiera. President Griffith, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much.
It's great to see you.
You as well. Good evening. My name is Brendan Griffith, and I'm the president of the New York City Central Labor Council, AFL-CIO, the largest local labor federation in the U.S., representing over 1 million workers and over 300 unions in the 5 boroughs. And we are proud to be here today engaging on this topic and offering a holistic point of view on these efforts. Government efficiency can be a loaded term, and it can be a euphemism for austerity. Efficiency can't simply mean fewer workers, fewer services, and a privatization of our public resources. Efficiency should measure the city's ability to deliver services, to protect public money, and to maintain a qualified professional workforce that delivers for working families. First, we would encourage the city to make partnerships with the workers and the unions in government a cornerstone of its approach. If the city consults unions when thinking about contracts, agency reorganization, or tech implementation, it can get a strong value-added perspective. Workers understand when systems break down and where unnecessary duplicative processes exist. Their insight can help ensure that reforms are successful. Early engagement with the unionized workforce will reduce disruption and strengthen accountability. The city can demonstrate such cooperation by standardizing labor impact reviews, co-developing agency restructuring protocols, and providing clear written explanations of how workforce concerns are not only taken into consideration, but addressed. Second, stabilizing the public workforce is critical because of what our members have to offer. If the city requires agencies to incorporate staffing, retention, training, and morale into operational and capital planning, the impact of what those agencies can accomplish will improve. On the other hand, understaffing can hurt the most vulnerable, including those in public housing and those relying on healthcare, transportation, and consumer and worker protections. The civil service was designed to maintain institutional knowledge, and that should transcend government reorganization. Third, we encourage strengthening procurement and contract oversight. Too often, vendors use scope, cost, duration, and funding sources to find ways to charge our government and our taxpayers more while padding profits. The city could review contracts for duplicative work, overlapping deliverables, and unnecessary outside consulting. Savings could be redirected towards services and enforcement of the laws already on the books that could put money back into the city's coffers. It should also be said that fiscal stewardship must take job quality into consideration. Finally, we know there are many questions concerning open primaries. However, I would encourage the commission to maintain its focus. Any discussions about open primaries should proceed carefully, with transparency, and with full consideration of how change would affect marginalized communities. Economic development, procurement, capital investment all involve wages and jobs. If working people can't afford to live and work safely in New York City, if efficiency efforts don't provide pathways to apprenticeships, strong workplace safety standards, if high road procurement and standards are not being followed by the government, isn't more efficiency only providing substandard, cheap services, and New Yorkers deserve better than that. We should take a strong stance against public dollars subsidizing low road employment or undermining the public unionized workforce. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Kevin?
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Kevin Lachera. I'm a fourth generation Greenpointer and a street safety advocate with the Make McGinnis Safe organization. And I'd like to begin by thanking the board for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here to encourage the city of New York to streamline how we get street safety infrastructure work done throughout the 5 boroughs, and especially in my neighborhood of Greenpoint. For 70 years, McGinnis Boulevard has divided my community, an arterial highway constructed by Robert Moses to connect 2 highways. My great-grandmother's home and many others were demolished to prioritize speeding cut through traffic. In the years since, over 200 people have been killed on the street and thousands have been injured. Some of you in this room may be familiar with McGinnis and the advocacy around it. During the last mayoral administration, after the death of a local school teacher, the Adams administration abandoned plans to safely redesign the roadway, allegedly at the whim of wealthy donors. Mayor Zohran Mamdani entered office promising to turn the page on that corruption, and work is happening right now to safely complete our community plan. And though we are grateful that this historic wrong is finally being righted, it's been more than 5 years since our neighbor Matthew Jensen was killed on McGinnis Boulevard. After his death, DOT spent over a year studying how to make the roadway safer, only to come to us with 3 different plans, which the community proceeded to fight over. It took another full year for a final plan to be assessed, completed, and presented. I don't blame the hardworking people at DOT for those delays. I blame a system that prioritizes inertia over action. There are roads like McGinnis all over the city, and every year New Yorkers are losing their lives. It doesn't need to be this way. Communities like Greenpoint will always organize no matter how difficult the task at hand, but we shouldn't have to. Streamlining the way street safety infrastructure projects for bus lanes and bike lanes and comprehensive redesigns happen is a necessity, and it is my hope that the board recommends moving it forward as a way to make our city better for all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time. Just want to welcome questions from the commission for President Griffith and for Kevin. But as you marshal your questions, I want to just thank President Griffith for your urgent response to the correspondence that this commission sent you at the very start of our process. We sent you a note asking you to invite your members to participate. You circulated that to all of your constituent members, and you also placed a notice in the chief, and we've been pleased that we've, as a consequence of that, received direct input from city workers. So I'm just really grateful for your partnership. Questions, thoughts, comment? Councilman Henry?
Again, thank you for testimony. Brendan, I think in your testimony, you talked about something that has been mentioned here before, which has to do with the undermining of labor. Obviously, I've come from a perspective that's a little different, but we've heard here testimonies about the benefit and in some cases, the people against project labor agreements specifically in order to speed up projects. What's your perspective and your experience on project labor agreements as it applies to construction, specifically to affordable housing, which is one of the issues that have been one of our subject here? If you can opine on that and give us your perspective and the experience there.
Sure. Yeah, I think project labor agreements have done a great job of streamlining processes and bringing together some of the various rules and collective bargaining agreements that different unions have to make it more efficient in terms of building. So there are clear expectations both from the workers and from the developers as to that construction. They are a really important tool also to maintain standards as we're looking for efficiencies. As I mentioned in my testimony, the term efficiency can be very loaded. And often when we talk about more efficient, we're talking about quicker. Sometimes we're talking about cheaper, but we're not necessarily talking about better. We want to make sure that those standards are maintained, and project labor agreements are one way to do just that.
Is there a way that project labor agreements can be improved to this? Some of the concerns was that they tend to delay projects. I'm not saying that that's the case, but that was some of the concerns that were expressed to this commission before, that some of the affordable, housing projects that needed to be built quicker could be delayed as a result of it.
I think, Henry, the greatest example of the lack of a project to labor agreement that we have seen over the last week was on 42nd Street, where I would say that that project is not more efficient, is not moving quicker, and will be significantly delayed. And perhaps a unionized workforce throughout that construction may have prevented what thankfully did not mean the loss of life, but certainly is going to be a delay and was a tremendous risk and an unnecessary.
Additional questions? Great. Thank you both for your testimony. We've been joined online by Councilmember Sylvina Brooks Powers. I'd like to invite the council member to share thoughts, provide testimony, and then I will invite two participants online as their own panel.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can.
Perfect. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on the commission's preliminary report and its consideration of changes to New York City's charter. As the council member representing parts of Southeast Queens and the eastern part of the Rockaway Peninsula, I know firsthand what happens when decisions are made without meaningful engagement from the communities they affect. My constituents deserve faster service delivery, streamlined permitting, and a government that works better. And we should absolutely pursue reforms that eliminate unnecessary bureaucracy and modernize how our city operates. Whether it's a major transportation project, land use decisions, or quality of life issues, the best outcomes come when residents, community boards, and elected representatives are brought into the process early, not after decisions have already been made. Efficiency cannot come at the expense of accountability, transparency, or the balance of powers established in our charter. Several of the concepts outlined in the preliminary report appear to do more than streamline government. They would shift authority away from the elected city council and concentrate greater power within the executive branch. The council's role is not simply procedural. We legislate, conduct oversight, ensure transparency, and serve as the public's voice in government. Those responsibilities exist to provide checks and balances, not obstacles. For example, the report contemplates making recommendations to eliminate reporting requirements without council approval and giving executive agencies greater authority over matters that have traditionally required legislative action, including amendments to the building code. Yet the records show the council has consistently acted to repeal outdated reporting requirements and has moved expeditiously when building code updates have been transmitted for consideration. The report also raises concerns about reducing notice and engagement requirements for major transportation projects and limiting the council's role in reviewing city office leases. These are not unnecessary layers of government. They are safeguards that promote transparency, accountability, and public confidence in decisions that directly affect New Yorkers. Equally concerning is the process itself. The preliminary report repeatedly states that the commission, quote unquote, may consider various proposals, but provides few specifics about what will ultimately appear on the ballot. The commission must submit ballot proposals by August 3rd, yet the public, stakeholders, and the council still do not know the full scope of the proposed charter amendments. Hearing transcripts that were promised in the interest of transparency remain incomplete, and it is unclear whose input has shaped these recommendations. Charter amendments are not temporary policy changes. They can permanently reshape how our city is governed. And before New Yorkers are asked to vote on these changes, they deserve a transparent process, clearly defined proposals, and meaningful opportunities for public engagement. The council, as the legislative body most directly affected, should also have the opportunity to fully evaluate and provide input on any proposal that would alter its constitutional role. I stand ready to work with this commission and the administration on reforms that make government more effective, but those reforms should strengthen, not weaken, transparency, accountability, and the voice of the public and their elected representatives. And I'll just end with saying that recently the administration and its new division that it has created in terms of mass public engagement went above and beyond to engage the public in terms of testifying regarding freezing the rent. And I will say in this process, I have not seen much of any advertising for the public to take part in public testimony. So again, if we are really pushing for transparency and a government that works for everyone, we need to open up this process. We need to be transparent and clear on it and work together. I thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you so very much, Council Member. Appreciate your testimony. Appreciate you taking this time, and grateful for the opportunity to engage with you on questions of shared power and authority in the city, and certainly on transparency as well. I would just suggest that your staff might want to go back online to our site, because in your testimony you said that public transcripts, you said that transcripts that were promised of our public hearings have not been posted. That's actually not the case.
I said incomplete. I didn't say not posted.
We post them in full. We post the transcripts in full on our site. One of the things that I've appreciated as a commissioner is the ability to go on our site and to review everything that we've heard from the several hundred New Yorkers that have testified before us thus far, and to take that up as we shape the recommendations that we consider and that we make to this administration. So those are posted as soon as they are available to the commission. And we also, in addition to the transcripts, we also post all the video recordings from all of our public hearings as well. We are hyper transparent about all of this. So appreciate the testimony. Questions, comments for the council member?
And when we talk about transparency, can you speak to how it's been publicized and the outreach that has gone into it as well?
Councilmember, Emma Wolf here. Great to see you, and thank you.
Hi, Emma.
Hi there. I will just add my 2 pennies and pick up a little bit on the question you asked, but then I'll defer to the chair and other commissioners. I was just going to make sure you were aware that as the transcripts are finalized, they go online, but in almost real time, staff or the public can look at the recordings online. So I would assume staff are happy to talk to yours offline, but it's all there on the COGE website. In terms of the public engagement, I know many of the commissioners have been talking to the staff in City Hall, who've done a really impressive job of engaging the public in a short amount of time. They've reached out to every member of the city's workforce, in addition to social media, including by the mayor himself. And I'm sure they'll speak to a lot more of the granular, but they've probably reached, in that case, hundreds of thousands of folks in different forms.
Any
I
additional?
hear you, but go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, council member.
No, you can say what you're gonna say.
No, it's okay. Just
So yeah, so what I was gonna say is I have not, and we have shared information as well locally to try to make sure folks are aware of this as well, but I have not seen as intense of the outreach that I've seen on other campaigns. But what were you gonna say?
no, we note that, council member, and if there are specific ideas that your staff has about how we can continue to get the information to your community, we are more than happy to engage with those ideas. As Emma said, this information has been spread far and wide, and we've really been impressed by the robust turnout that we've had for our hearings across the city, including on rainy nights and when we competed against World Cup matches and other things going on in this city. But
and then also one last thing to
any and all
clarify.
ideas that are available to us, council member. And again, I will say that in real time, we post the transcripts, we post the video, and we make all the information as available as possible.
So just really quickly on that. So my understanding is the transcripts missing are for June 22nd, 23rd,
Yes.
30th, July 1st, July 6th, July 8th.
Yes.
Are those hearings, they're not up yet?
No, as soon as the transcripts are available, we post them in full. You said that the postings are incomplete. As soon as the transcripts are ready, we post them, but the video from all the hearings are posted immediately in real time and available and transparent to all.
But those
Are there-
transcripts are not up. I understand the video is up, but the
As
transcripts are
soon
not
as,
up.
again, I'll say, as soon as the transcription service delivers the material to the staff, it's immediately posted in full and joined to the videos that are already up and available to the entire public. Are there
So I
any
just listed about
substantive
6.
questions for the council member? I just want to be able to
I'm
move
sorry, I
forward.
feel like you're trying to silence me now. There are 6 hearings that I'm asking about with the transcripts, and you just said that
I'm not
they're
trying to
all
silence you
up.
at all, council member, but I will say yet again that as soon as the hearings are transcribed and are made available to the staff, they are posted in full, but in real time, we post the videos from every single hearing immediately at the conclusion of the hearing.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, I stand by my statement that I said before. Also, we do not know who the staff consists of for the commission. So again, in terms of transparency, the council has no knowledge of who the staff is for the commission as well.
We are happy to share that as well. The staff or the members of the staff, that information is posted on the COGE website, but we'll happily share that with you and your staff as well, council member. Are there any questions on substance of the council member's testimony? Great. Council member, thank you so very much for your
Thank
participation.
you. I look forward to the transparency and thank you for holding today's session.
Thank you, council member. We will continue in the spirit of full transparency with you and everybody else in the city on these issues. I'd like to please ask on Zoom, Eric McClure and Steve Flack to join us.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Gaspard, Vice Chair Wolf, and all the members of the commission for your service and for the opportunity to testify this evening regarding potential revisions to the city charter. My name is Eric McClure, and I am the Executive Director of Streets PAC, a political action committee and advocacy organization whose work is focused on improving street safety and public transportation. I'm here to testify in that capacity to offer Streets PAC support for the pressing need to streamline the process for approving and implementing street infrastructure projects in order to make our city's streets safer for all New Yorkers. Legislation rooted in the bike lash of 2009 created a two-tiered system that holds bike lane and bus lane projects to a different standard than any other street infrastructure work, adding needless red tape to the review process for these projects that was clearly intended solely to slow them down, despite irrefutable evidence that complete streets treatments improve safety for everyone. Treating the implementation of bike lanes or bus lanes that are less than a quarter mile long as, quote, major transportation projects, unquote, and subjecting them to lengthy review by the police department, fire department, Department of Small Business Services, and the mayor's office for people with disabilities, not to mention community board review, is the polar opposite of efficient government. Furthermore, the city has implemented subsequent regulations that further slow up the process, such as the 2025 law that requires consultation with individual firehouses. These entities possess little expertise in street design or engineering, and we don't require this level of review for any other type of infrastructure project in New York City. Community boards don't vote on whether we upgrade a sewer or water main, and they shouldn't be hamstringing implementation of projects that we know will save lives. I'll note here, too, that for the past 3.5 years, I have chaired Brooklyn Community Board 6. I very much believe that public consultation and constructive input have great value, but shouldn't serve as excuses for delay and dilution. Since the streets plan went into effect in 2021, the city has failed to meet the mandates for implementation of protected bike and bus lanes, due in significant part to the required and painfully slow review process. To meet the benchmarks of the streets plan and to ensure that we can deliver proven standardized safety designs to all the city's neighborhoods and citizens, we must remove unnecessary obstacles to progress. I strongly urge this commission to help put street safety on the ballot in November by supporting a revision to the city charter that will reform the process around major transportation projects. However much some people may oppose it or attempt to obstruct it, the city's future success will be rooted in making it easier and safer for all New Yorkers to get around by walking, biking, using micromobility, and riding public transit. Please help us to realize that future. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Hello, thanks to the board for this opportunity. My name is Steve Flack. As a fourth generation native New Yorker and lifelong resident of Brooklyn, I am aware of how New York's streetscape is an unsafe disaster. And the only way we can fix this is by fast tracking streetscape changes. The city should consider ways to reform the major transportation projects process to speed up standard safety redesigns in order to better meet and exceed the goals of the streets plan. As it currently stands, the only thing slower than making these changes is the M42 bus, something Zohran Mamdani was aware of when he ran and overwhelmingly won the mayoralty last November. When he won with an overwhelming mandate, it was clear that every New Yorker deserves safe streets. Every New Yorker deserves fast buses. Currently rolling out these infrastructure designs is slow and onerous, getting sidetracked by every NIMBY who wants to preserve NYC in amber. Every delay is one more bus rider getting to work late. Every delay is one more cyclist getting doored by an out-of-state driver. Every delay is one more child dying at an undaylit street corner. New Yorkers deserve better than that. They deserve safe streets, they deserve a bike lane network that connects citywide, and they deserve faster buses, and they deserve them now. In every year of the streets plan, DOT has been unable to implement projects fast enough to hit their protected bike lane and bus lane benchmarks. To reach every neighborhood and protect every New Yorker, the city needs to shorten its timelines for implementing tested standard redesigns. If and when we do this, New York can finally excise the ghost of Robert Moses and become the world-class transit city people believe it can be. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments? Thank you both for your testimony. Now we'll return to the room. Xavier Pugh Folks or Javier Pugh Folks and Laura Shepard. Laura Shepard is Laura. Oh, great. Thank you, Laura. Please. And please correct my mispronunciation.
Yeah. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Xavier Pufos, and I am a young worker in New York City. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify today. Like so many young people, I entered the workforce believing that if I worked hard, I would be able to afford the basics. Instead, I learned that many jobs in our city don't pay enough to cover rent, groceries, transportation, or even my phone bill. As the commission considers changes to the city charter, I urge you to place before voters a simple but transformative principle. New York City should not issue or renew outdoor eating licenses for businesses that refuse to pay a living wage. An outdoor eating license is a privilege granted by the city. Just as businesses must meet health, safety, and legal standards to operate, they should also meet a basic standard of treating workers with dignity. No business should receive the benefit of operating in New York City while paying wages that leave workers dependent on public assistance or unable to afford the city they help keep running. Young workers are often told that low-paying jobs are just stepping stones, but for many of us, these jobs are how we support ourselves, help our families, and build our futures. Poverty wages don't teach responsibility. They create instability. They make it harder to stay in school, afford transportation, pay rent, and plan for the future. The charter exists to shape how our city governs and serves New Yorkers. If we truly want a government that works efficiently and serves everyone, then we must ensure that city policies do not reward businesses that rely on poverty wages. The commission has been asked to consider reforms that improve government and better serve New Yorkers. Ensuring that city-issued outdoor eating licenses are tied to paying a living wage is one way to make the government more accountable and ensure public resources support responsible employers. Businesses that pay living wages invest in their workers, strengthen neighborhoods, and contribute to a healthier local economy. Businesses that refuse to pay enough to live should not receive the city's seal of approval through an outdoor eating license. As a high school student at Brooklyn Technical High School, I want a future where hard work means stability, not constant struggle. I ask you to give voters the opportunity to make the future possible by advancing a charter amendment that says clearly, if you want the privilege of doing business in New York City, you must pay a living wage. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you from this Brooklyn Tech alum. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone.
Please, Laura.
Laura Shepard, Queens resident. I'm going to begin by talking about the outdoor dining process, which, as it is, it's burdensome and costly and has resulted in an inequitable distribution across the city, especially shutting out many Queens businesses. The publishing requirement specifically, which requires a printed ad in print media, which costs upwards of $800, truly discouraged a lot of businesses from pursuing the process, on top of the permits and the $1,000 upfront cost. This should be addressed going forward. With regard to street safety and the major transportation law, too many communities are waiting. An incontrovertible body of evidence shows that protected bike lanes and other street safety treatments save lives across all categories of road users. And these designs should be in the hands of experts and professionals who know what they're doing, and everyone across the city should equitably be able to access all of the benefits, including the safety, convenience, and affordability that come with having safe streets. Too many people are limited in their options at the moment and just left in danger or forced to make choices that are between poor options. And also, I would be remiss not to talk about sidewalks in a pedestrian city. I think there is almost no greater example of government inefficiency than the fact that while technically the city owns the property that owns the sidewalks, property owners are responsible for their maintenance and care. We see this every time it snows. And too many people with disabilities and mobility challenges are left struggling across too much public infrastructure. The public is left waiting while people are trying to detangle the jurisdictional web to determine who owns what property and who's responsible. This really needs to be streamlined because it's not right. There are also the Department of Design and Construction can take upwards to 15 to 20 years to address basic violations, while homeowners have liens on their houses and their neighbors are left with trip hazards and other struggles that limit their mobility. Too many capital projects, which need to happen faster to begin with, leave communities waiting and in limbo. Sometimes the projects that go in are obsolete by that point, such as the mountable curbs on the Queens Boulevard protected bike lane, which is yet to be installed. Or
You're at time.
okay,
If you could just
to
write-
go on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Commissioners, any comments, questions? Thank you both for your testimony. Really appreciate it. Misha Nonen and Michelle Yangshi. Yangshi? Yangshi. We know who you are. Welcome.
Good evening, chairs and commissioners. My name is Misha Nonen. I'm the Chief Program Officer at the New York City Criminal Justice Agency. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. CJA is New York City's long-standing pretrial services provider, working within the criminal justice system for decades to promote fair, effective, and humane practices for people navigating the pretrial process. For the past 17 years, we have served as the supervised release provider in Queens, working directly with thousands of New Yorkers as they move through the system while remaining in their communities, in their homes, and their jobs, and with their families. That direct service work gives CJA a unique vantage point. We see the extraordinary resilience of New York's close-knit neighborhoods every day. The family member who shows up for a court date, the neighbor who helps someone get to a medical appointment, the local partner who agrees to help a client on short notice. New York's communities carry people through crisis in ways no government program can replicate. But we also see just as clearly how slow-moving bureaucracy undermines that community strength. When a client in crisis cannot get a timely doctor's appointment or waits months for a supportive housing unit to open, the moment for stabilization often passes, and contact with the criminal legal system deepens instead of ending. This commission's own preliminary report documents the institutional fraction we encounter on the ground. It finds that human service contractors, the community-based organizations delivering housing, health, and stabilization services our clients depend on, can wait over a year to be paid for services already rendered, and that standard human services procurement can take well over a year to complete. start to finish. The report also notes that a single affordable housing project can require 40 separate permits across 15 different agencies, and that new housing construction can take more than 4 years from initial filing to completion. Every one of these delays is a delay in a bed, a service, or a provider that one of our clients needs today. CJA urges the commission to treat streamlining as a public safety and justice issue, not only a fiscal one. Faster procurement means the community organizations we refer clients to can open their doors sooner and stay open. Faster permitting means transitional and supportive housing comes online faster, and faster access to healthcare and housing means fewer people cycling back through arrest, detention, and court. We ask the commission to pursue the procurement and permitting reforms outlined in this report with real urgency and to consider human service delivery specifically as it does so. Reducing these barriers will help not just make government more efficient, it will make our neighborhoods stronger and our city fairer and safer for everyone who calls it home. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good evening. Thank you to the commission, Chair Gaspard, all of the members and staff, the opportunity to testify this evening. My name is Michelle Yancey. I'm CEO of Good Shepherd Services, a youth development, education, and family service organization serving over 30,000 New Yorkers. Personally, I've served in the nonprofit human service sector of New York City for more than 30 years, during which I've held many of you. Good Shepherd urges the commission to consider changes to the charter that would address some of the most economically inefficient and daunting challenges facing nonprofit human service organizations that contract the City of New York to provide essential services to our fellow New Yorkers, and not because of how they impact on our organizations, but because of how they impact on our fellow New Yorkers, including our staff who are themselves our fellow New York residents. Chief among these, which are those that are addressed in this testimony, include: 1, procurement and contract payment delays that undermine effective service delivery, jeopardize the financial stability of service providing organizations, especially smaller and mid-sized nonprofits, and add millions of dollars in unreimbursable interest costs to the already unsustainable costs of rising costs of doing business. This includes, for example, for Good Shepherd Services alone, approximately up to this past year, we were paid almost $400,000 in interest costs just to maintain our line of credit, which allows us to deal with the cash flow problems caused by contract delays. And number 2, insufficient rates and lack of automatic cost escalators in contracts that work directly against the provision of high quality services and the ability to pay workers providing those services a wage that aligns with the actual cost of living in New York City. On the second point, Charter Section 16 requires the mayor to annually report on the budgetary resources allocated to reduce poverty. Government in under allocating budgetary resources to human service contracts is directly and indirectly paying wages that are poverty inducing and not poverty reducing. And the people that it impacts the most are both those individuals who hold these jobs, in particular those jobs that are under the true cost of living. That includes approximately 425,000 human services workers who are overwhelmingly New York City residents, and most importantly, the recipients of those services that they provide. New York City has set what the bar is for paying fair wages, which is the true cost of living, and should now hold itself to paying that at least that wage to its own direct workers and those working under city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Please, Kapil.
Hi, Michelle. A few questions or a couple questions. Can you repeat how much does the delay in payment cost Good Shepherd annually through the line of credit, interest, et cetera? What was that number?
Well, the direct cost that I'm referring to is almost $400,000, for example, last year to maintain and pay the interest on our line of credit, which is interest, by the way, not a reimbursable expense. And that is only specifically related to maintaining cash flow caused by payment delays. So at the end of the fiscal year, which is prior to the advances for the new fiscal year kicking in, Currently, New York City owes us approximately $5 million from contracts of previous years.
5 million.
5 million.
Over how many years?
I think right now that represents invoices and contract payments that we are owed from at least 2, possibly 3 past fiscal years.
And are the 50% contract advances the right solution to the contracting delay problem?
I'm so glad you asked that. This is a complicated answer because first, let me say that having a 50% advance, which is now city law passed last October, and is a Band-Aid on really what is the underlying problem. I will say that in this moment it's absolutely essential because it's really truly the only thing that is enabling especially small and mid-sized organizations to get through dealing with the challenges that I'm talking about. Good Shepherd Services is not one of those small and mid-sized organizations. And because we have, for example, now what we have increased over the past few years from an $8 million to now a $15 million line of credit just to make this whole thing work, small and mid-sized organizations don't have that. And so, for example, this time last year, prior to the 50% law that is now in place for the advances, I had every single week small organizations that we subcontract with, that we partner with, that also provide essential services in the same communities that we work, calling me in desperation, asking if Good Shepherd Services could provide them with a loan to be able to make payroll. And fortunately, we are not able to do that personally, but I was able to connect them with the Fund for the City of New York, Sea Change, individual donors, to be able to, help them make payroll until the advances started to kick in July. Just this past month, one of our partners in one of the communities that we serve, prior to even the announcement about the 50% advance potentially being not going forward, their staff had already not missed 2 payroll cycles because they had run out of money at the end of the year. So the 50% advances is really not the solution because it causes other problems. For example, a cash flow problem for New York City. But for the organizations that get that, it really requires an enormous amount of fiscal responsibility to have those resources and budget them out to make sure that they are going to stretch over the course of the year that you need them to. When you're being, you have insurance payments that are rising, all kinds of rent and electric utility bill costs. There's a huge temptation to use those resources to pay the people that are, on you in the moment, rather than save them to make payroll like in March. So it's very complicated. In the short term, it's absolutely necessary. Organizations will absolutely close. Not Good Shepherd, but small and mid-sized organizations. Those organizations calling me in desperation for a loan. They won't make it. But we need to solve the underlying problem that is why that's happening. And that's, I've given a lot of specific recommendations in my testimony, which I'll submit online. And after 30 years of habit, I have 30 copies here for you that I can leave behind. We know how to do it. We just have to have the political will to fix the problem.
Thank you so much. Michelle and Misha, I don't believe that there are additional questions from commissioners, but just know that we hear you on this. We're actually pretty outraged about it and intend to make sure that it is appropriately addressed. Michelle, you should know that in addition to the commissioners that are present here, we have a commissioner who's out of town and online, but I want you to be aware of her presence because she's had such a long and rich relationship with Good Shepherd. And that's, of course, Commissioner Ruth Messenger, who just loves Good Shepherd and used to work closely with the nuns who ran Good Shepherd back in her day in office. So just wanted to note that.
I love Ruth, but I'm not a nun.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Merrill Laborde and Rex Ty, Merrill and Rex, please join us. And as they join us, I just want to clarify something about the exchange that I had with our council member about the transcripts from these meetings. As I noted, Each hearing is immediately posted on YouTube, and as has become customary on YouTube, there's real-time transcript that's auto-generated on the site. And we are going to add instructions on our website just to help, just to better direct New Yorkers to that real-time auto-generated transcript. The formal transcript for our hearings are being prepared by the excellent stenographer that we have on site. And of course, those have to be checked for accuracy, complete accuracy before they're posted, but the informal transcripts are available in real time immediately after these hearings. So please, Merle and Rex.
Hi, my name is Meryl Laborde, and I am a resident of Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and a longtime street safety advocate in North Brooklyn. I first want to thank the Commission for convening this hearing and allowing New Yorkers to testify. I'm here to ask that the Commission streamline the process for redesigning our streets to make them safer for everyone and more efficient for transit riders. The current laws do not allow DOT to meet the goals of the 2019 Streets Plan because of the burdensome paperwork and notification requirements around major transportation projects, which includes bike lanes and bus lanes over 1,000 feet or 3 city blocks. I know the folks at DOT are trying to do their jobs, but the current rules make it impossible for them to deliver projects in a timely manner, and they are often years behind on these projects. I want to give you a few examples from my neighborhood that have been delayed for years by the current rules. The redesigns of Metropolitan Avenue and Grand Street, roadways that local businesses, residents, bus riders, pedestrians, and cyclists all agree do not work as designed. It has been 3 years since DOT and Councilmember Gutierrez hosted a community visioning session and promised a plan. We are still waiting. DOT says it's a complicated project and needs more community input and more traffic studies before they can share even the first iteration of a plan. And that will still have to go through additional community review and notification under our current rules. Similarly, the Make Morgan Safe campaign began in 2021 after another cyclist death on Morgan Avenue, a road connecting Bushwick, East Williamsburg, and Greenpoint. We have repeatedly asked DOT for safety improvements and been met with inaction and excuses about how complicated it is. Last year, DOT named Morgan Avenue the most dangerous trucking corridor in the entire city, but they still cannot answer the question of what they will do to make it safer. Nearby on Meeker Avenue, DOT started a pedestrian and cyclist improvement project in 2021 with an expected completion date in 2023. The project remains half complete. They were able to put in metered parking without the burdens of a major transportation project, but they still cannot deliver the completed bike lane and pedestrian improvements or the maintenance of the corridor that they promised with the addition of metered parking. These are just a few of many projects across the city that are delayed by the overly burdensome notification, input, and review requirements for bike lane and bus lane projects. For every project delay, more New Yorkers are killed by traffic violence, more bus riders are delayed, and DOT spends more resources on paperwork instead of making our streets the envy of the world. These projects aren't just for cyclists and bus riders. They've been shown in study after study to make streets safer for everyone, and the Commission should act to make these projects easier to implement.
Thank you, Merle. Rex.
Hello. Quick personal point of order. I registered to speak on 2 subjects, but I imagine I only get 1 speaking opportunity, right?
You don't get 2 for the price of 1. Sorry.
All good. So my name is Rex. I am a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. I wear multiple hats.
Can you bring the microphone
Yes.
closer to you?
So sorry. My name is Rex. I'm a member of the New York City DSA. I wear multiple hats. I do want to just first highlight as a representative of the Afro-Socialist and Socialists of Color Caucus, the issue around the Department of Community Safety. There's a proposal for the charter revision to move from the office, the mayor's office, into a department. My esteemed colleague Christina Sparrow is a subject matter expert. I hope you take her consideration into consideration. So recognizing that tonight's focus is on street safety projects. In my day job, I'm a internal medicine physician working in New York City Health and Hospitals. I work in post-acute and long-term care, where a lot of my patients are from low-income communities of color and are often victims of traffic violence disproportionately. These are patients that will, I just want to add to the chorus, just saying that a lot of these patients are, we talked about death from traffic violence, but there are many patients that survive and then they have continued care needs for the rest of their lives. I'm talking about skilled nursing needs with toileting, cleaning, respiratory care, speech language care. These are patients that are not a constituency because they will never get out of bed, they will never vote, they will never speak again. So I want to represent their interests. The data from New York City and globally is clear about the value of street safety projects, and they should be able to move with all due haste. I want to support the proposal for streamlining the street safety projects, and just recognizing that as a matter of institutional efficiency, we already know in healthcare that preventive health is extremely impactful for patients avoiding expensive and debilitating hospitalization in the future. And similarly, I want to urge you to consider that preventive street safety infrastructure keeps neighborhood residents alive, independent, participating in city life rather than being struck by automobiles and then being a burden on our already critically understaffed New York City healthcare system. So let's please embrace 21st century global standards of city wellness to promote high quality living for all New Yorkers in all neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your advocacy and the care that you provide. Questions, comments, commissioners? None. Thank you both. Alex Moreno and Pedro Rodriguez, both online participants. Alex and Pedro, can you hear us?
Yes.
Please start, Alex.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Alex Moreno. I'm a Brooklyn resident, a street safety activist. And like far too many New Yorkers, I'm someone who's both been the victim of a traffic crash and has a close family member who's been seriously injured in a crash as well. I'm here to speak in favor of charter revisions to streamline the process for implementing street redesigns. I'm very encouraged by the many New Yorkers who testified about the need for adjustments in the current street redesign process already. This process is unnecessarily burdensome. It leads to delays in implementation that leave New Yorkers in danger. This extensive review for street redesigns, designs that are already widely in use all over the city, is essentially the equivalent of requiring an intense multi-agency review for regular street operations like milling and paving. It doesn't make sense to do such an extensive review for treatments that are already in use across the city, and the agency DOT is already implementing widely every single day during striping season. So this is an area where we really need to center policy and outcomes. With regard to some of the remarks made by the council members this evening, I also really want to emphasize that with regard to these projects, the council members have serious political considerations that are tied to them, which might be a reason that they speak against charter revisions in this area. Under the 3 previous mayors, we've seen council members leverage public support for street projects to create political pressure on the executive branch. This is something that happened under Bloomberg, it happened under de Blasio, it happened under Adams, and I'm sure if the council members are given the opportunity to do this, they'll do it under the current administration as well. Just a few other notes. For decades, DOT has been implementing the same bike infrastructure and street redesigns that we know work. There's lots of data to support the use of these designs. We don't need to check them and go through an extensive review every time. And when they're delayed, this exposes New Yorkers to possible injury or death. And it's New Yorkers of color and poor New Yorkers who disproportionately bear these impacts. I'll emphasize a note that Eric McClure also raised from Streets PAC. The over-involvement of local firehouses in bike and bus projects is incredibly burdensome, and it essentially allows individual FDNY members to veto or obstruct projects based on their personal opinions of them, right? They have no subject matter expertise. So this is an area where we really need we really need some changes, and New Yorkers need government that works for them to deliver immediate results. But again, in order for that to happen, we need to remove some of the unnecessary and obstructive hurdles, like these intense multi-agency reviews for what are essentially basic projects.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Pedro?
Hello. Thank you so much for the commission for hearing my testimony. Many members already spoke about the notification laws, and I definitely want to add. I definitely want to double what they said on that, but I want to focus on something more specific, which I don't think has been mentioned. At the moment, DOT has a kind of a perverse incentive to not make our streets safer by a simple fact: the agency actually has no skin in the game. And what I mean by that is that while I 100% have a lot of admiration for the workers at DOT, and I understand that they definitely do want to make our streets safer. But at the end of the day, as an organization, there is not really anything pushing for this because there's no incentive for the organization to actually act, except for political incentive. Now, what do I mean by that? Is, but to put it simply, is that there's no mechanism that forces the city to implement street safety projects at the moment. While there are mechanisms to actually stop the city from making street safety projects, namely lawsuits. DOT, for example, is more likely to get sued for implementing a street safety project than it is to not do so. So if you think about it, if DOT doesn't implement a street safety project on a street that is known to be dangerous, it is unlikely that they're going to get sued. That just doesn't happen very often. Meanwhile, we just saw the lawsuit that happened in Astoria on 31st Street. So this essentially means that the driving force on whether a street safety program happens is usually just political whims. Whether the mayor wants it, whether the local TM wants it, etc. But this is not something that our street safety should be dependent on. We should not be dependent on the political whims on who the mayor is or who our council member is. For that reason, I urge the committee, the commission, sorry, to look into ways to make Vision Zero bite. It needs to bite back. There needs to be an incentive and a real consequence for the city to simply ignore the fact that over 200 people are getting killed every single year and tens of thousands of people are getting injured every single year. This is not okay. And now there are one of the other I think that we could look into is, for example, making the city legally liable for damages on the street. If you get hurt on the street, there should be it should be easy for you to sue the city if the city knew that it was dangerous. That will kick the political programs into place. That will make the budget realize that this is an actual crisis. And this is something that has been done in other cities. So for example, in the Netherlands, which is a place that a lot of people talk about when it comes to street safety, this is something that's actually a common liability for the street managers. So that is my comment on that. I would like to thank the commission, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you both. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Pedro. I see no questions from the commissioners. Grateful for your testimony. Karen Wharton, Ryan Shanahan. Karen.
Hi, good evening, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Karen Wharton. I'm the Legislative Director at Citizen Action of New York and the convener of the statewide New York BIPOC Democracy Table. I work to expand democracy in New York. I helped lead the campaign for our state's public campaign finance program, the largest in the nation. I organized in Brooklyn for ranked choice voting and helped make it work in this city. So when I say I oppose the proposal to bring open primaries to New York City, it is not because I'm opposed to reform. Quite the opposite. I have fought similar proposals in Buffalo and Albany, different cities, same promise, same playbook. a sweeping, irreversible change. And now the same conversation has arrived in New York City. We had a group that voted after hearing from 5 witnesses. And then just last year, another commission looked at open primaries and declined to put it to voters. Nothing has changed since, except who won the last mayoral election. Proponents say 1 million unaffiliated New Yorkers are shut out, but more than 3 million New Yorkers are active, registered Democrats. Yet, in last year's record-breaking primary, over 2 million of those Democrats didn't vote, twice the entire unaffiliated bloc. Open primaries does nothing for them. Do they not matter? Notably, the CFB declined to endorse primaries, recommending we fix the enrollment deadline instead. We agree. My greatest concern, however, is this moment in our history. Louisiana versus Calais gutted Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act, the guardrails that protected Black and brown New Yorkers for 60 years are coming down. This is not the moment to be experimenting with our electoral system. This is the moment that we should be strengthening our system, the one that enabled communities of color to finally build real power. The problem the proponents name is real. The system is broken, but recognizing a problem does not mean rushing to the first proposed solution. So here is our ask.
You're right at time if you can be succinct.
Very. Recommend that New York City create a broad-based task force to study the full range of reforms, proportional representation, ballot access, enrollment reforms, civic engagement, and evaluate those through the lens of participation, racial equity, and representation. I'm out of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
For
Thank you so very much, Karen. Thank you. Ryan.
Hi, Ryan Shanahan from the Vera Institute of Justice, and I am here to urge the Commission to add to the New York City Charter a mandate that the New York City DOC is responsible for protecting the human dignity of all the people that work there or in their care. I'm not going to be able to connect that to outdoor dining, but I will try to connect it to the efficiency mandate that you have in front of you. And that is a jail system that has human dignity at the core of its operations and culture, makes facilities safer for everyone, increases staff morale for staff, and improves outcomes for incarcerated people, which I'm going to bundle together to show how it improves overall efficiency. But first, I want to connect human dignity to these outcomes, which is that I'm the chief research officer at Vera, and I conducted a randomized control trial of a housing unit in a South Carolina prison that was organized around human dignity, where people were by lottery assigned to that unit and had a 73% reduction in violence and an 83% reduction in chance of that they would go to solitary confinement. Staff were safer, and they talked a lot about their increased well-being when working on that housing unit. So how do we take these ideals and turn them?
Karen, can I and don't worry, this will not subtract from your time at all. But on that study, this was just a random controlled group. There was nothing that distinguished that population from the rest of the prison population.
It's a great question. So all of the people in the study applied to be on the unit, but we did a separate comparison of that group of people to see if they were similar to the population that did not apply to live on that unit, and we found that they were the exact same.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So in New York City, if we believe that if you create a clear commitment that's prescriptive to human dignity for the jail, you'll have an increase in staff morale, which should reduce the $334 million that you're currently spending on overtime, which is linked to staff shortages. It'll also increase outcomes for incarcerated people, which will reduce the $127 million that you spend on claims against the DOC. Government efficiency isn't just about processes, it's about a clarity of purpose and an alignment of values. Revising the charter to include that the DOC is responsible for protecting human dignity for people that work for them or in their care will unite us under a common principle and will help us strengthen communities and deliver on safety.
Even with my interruption, you came in under time. I'm impressed. Questions for Karen and Ryan? Please, Theo.
It's for Karen. So we've heard a lot of about open primaries as a commission.
Microphone a little closer, Theo.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now I'm going full Barry White on
I
you.
love it.
So we've heard a lot about open primaries, and I was wondering, can you just expand a little bit and tell us, one, are there other large jurisdictions that have implemented this, specifically this jungle primary format? And are there lessons learned from those jurisdictions and like cons that we've seen coming out of them?
Absolutely, Commissioner Moore. Thank you so much for that question. Well, proponents generally point to a few, like two major states, I guess. California, because of its size, and the California does have pretty much the exact model that our proponents are proposing. The top two open primaries. They've had it for some 14 years or thereabouts. We have not seen the studies, numerous studies have been done, and there is not a consistent improvement in turnout in California. Turnout ebbs and flows just like it does in New York. What we've also seen is that in minority communities or communities of color, they haven't been turning out as much in the primaries, Brian. And perhaps that's the same in other states in New York. And then the other state that is generally pointed to is Alaska. Alaska is wonderful. Alaska is pretty homogeneous. Alaska doesn't have 1 million people. And Alaska's only had open primaries for a few years, maybe the last 4, 5, 6 years. So I don't think that we should be changing our system here in New York in this moment in history based on something that has been happening for a few years in Alaska, a homogeneous state, and in California. And California's, someone has actually filed paper to repeal what's happening in California because it hasn't been working. And if you've been paying attention, they almost had 2 Republican candidates for governor. So in our opinion, California is not a good model. Alaska is not a good model. And rather than play around with the people of New York, we need to have a really solid study before we make changes. It's just too important. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Additional questions, comments? Thank you. Thank you both. Ryan, I'll assume that the details from the North Carolina study are included in the testimony that you're submitting. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sarah Catalinato and Alex Camarda. Sarah and Alex. Thanks, Sarah.
Testing. From parents to improve school transportation. Since 2010, we strive for better conditions on the yellow school bus. Also, Student Omni for All, expanding travel training, and a jobs pipeline into student transit careers. Problems with daily school busing impede education, safety, and civil rights for 1/6 of the student body. The air, traffic, and the economy suffer when parents must take students individually instead of putting them on the bus and going to work. To align with the charter, we must change the governance of pupil transportation. Chapter 78 calls for making the experiences of the people who use and deliver government's programs the central focus to inform policies, processes, and systems, and to increase equitable access to city services by incorporating these type of design into every agency's work. The only agency is NYC Public Schools, but it created a separate Office of People Transportation, OPT, to contract 50 private bus companies and one nonprofit. OPT spends $2 billion a year making 2-hour routes for 5-year-olds, but doesn't own the vehicles, apply for electrification grants, pilot cooling units that work without polluting, nor try to fix our driver shortage with proactive recruitment. OPT uses highly flawed tech. Its call center has no full-time Spanish speakers. It has put off providing clear guidance on protecting migrant students or skilled drivers whose TPS might end next Friday. Last year's audit of OPT by the city comptroller concluded that the system must change drastically and said City Hall must quickly study whether to take over school bus service or perhaps expand the nonprofit fleet. We suggest a ballot proposal to empower a commission of known representatives of parents, educators, bus workers, students, and disability advocates to help make and implement pupil transportation policy decisions. Resolutions passed across the city by the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council, Community Education Council 30 in Queens, District 75 Legislative Committee, Manhattan Community Board 12, and others have similar wording. When the panel for education policy, oh boy, we out of time. Okay, but with the unions and the parents are ready to go. So we just need a permanent body. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Alex?
Thank you. Good evening, members and staff of the Charter Commission. My name is Alex Camarda. I'm a senior policy advisor for reInvent Albany. We advocate for transparent and accountable government across New York. I'm here tonight to talk about ways to eliminate outdated reports that was commented on in the Commission's preliminary report. But I do want to state for the record that our organization supports ranked choice voting and nonpartisan elections. We note that only 2 of the 25 biggest U.S. cities have closed primaries, New York City and Philadelphia. Turning to reports, we felt in the preliminary report the Commission issued that it made a compelling case that the current system for eliminating outdated reports, namely the Report and Advisory Board Review Commission, more commonly known as RABRIC, is not working effectively. The Commission's report notes that just 28 reports have been eliminated since 2010, when RABRIC was first created. In the meantime, over 1,500 new reporting requirements have been mandated. In our own assessment of data that Doris put in the open data portal that includes all of the government mandated publications, we totaled 2,231 required reports, and 1,859 of those are recurring, either daily or up to 8 years. The agency that has the most required reports is the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, of which there are 100. And so we think a new approach is warranted. We propose in our testimony that agencies, through a process akin to rulemaking with the addition of a public hearing, propose the reports annually that they want to see eliminated. And through that public process, would make recommendations, and the council could overturn, retaining their legislative authority if they did not agree with the reports that were slated to be eliminated. If they did not oppose it, the reports would then be eliminated. For new reports, I mean, that only deals with existing reports. For new reports, we think that there should be a sunsetting requirement as the Commission raised in its report. We would suggest 4 years as a time frame, and during that period, those reports could not be eliminated that are new. that have a sunset requirement. We also suggest that the council adopt a protocol for any new legislation so that it doesn't reflexively require reporting requirements, but examines whether the information is available in other means and tries to informally request the information of the administration. Lastly, I would just note that there are many ways in which information dissemination can
You're
occur.
right at time, Alex, if you can.
Okay. And we really support information dissemination through open records and also the open data law.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. Questions, comments for Sarah, Alex? None. Thank you both for your testimony. Thank you. Slight departure from the standard we've had here. Instead of calling two individuals to testify from the general public, I want to now call on a member of the central staff of the New York City Council, Nwamaka Ejebe, and please forgive me for mispronouncing your name at all. And I know you'll correct me. I believe that you're the general counsel
That is
to the
correct.
city council.
Yes,
Thank you.
that is correct.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much. Commission, yes, my name is Maka GB and I serve as general counsel for the city council. It's an honor to testify on behalf of the speaker. For the council, the speaker asked subject matter experts at the council to review the preliminary report in detail and offer data-driven recommendations in response. She has invited leaders of her legislation, land use, and finance division to discuss those proposals and offer recommendations. Your executive director has explained to me that they won't have time to testify. So we urge you to read our written submission, and we also encourage a person meeting with the commissioner and the vice chair. I do want to flag here policy and legal issues that we have. As you all are probably aware, COGE is one of the shortest charter revision commissions in all of the city's history. This has resulted to a lot of breaking precedent, including the fact that the council's experts couldn't engage with you. That is a breaking precedent. In addition, the fact that the council has not engaged substantively with the commission and its staff on detailed recommendations. Again, another make, break, and precedent. By comparison, the charter revision commissions created by the council in recent years lasted 8 to 9 months, respectively, before they issued the final report. As Citizens Union correctly noted during its testimony, quote, when commissions are established at the last minute, they have little opportunity to gather public input, conduct research, or engage in thorough and deliberative process, unquote. For the sake of New Yorkers, I echo what one of the council members noted before. By law, you have 2 years to meet. You can put on the ballot something in 2027. We at the council are not naive that commissions can be used by administration to cynically reduce legislative bodies' authority. But if the stated intent here is government efficiency, we urge you to focus on getting complete information. There's nothing inefficient about getting the wrong policy outcome. And here, my colleagues, their testimony will spell out missing information, including the fact that the council, out of its own initiative, has removed from the books far more reporting requirements than the Rabrick Commission. It has, through its own initiative, and please really review that carefully. It explains a very detailed process that the council goes through to get rid of its reports. But I wanted to turn to the legal concerns. The core concern that we have in two of the staff proposals is that it seems to violate the state constitution by requiring the state constitution only allows for one legislative body. And the two recommendations that appear to be written, and again, this is more vague, so we're not sure exactly where the commission is going. But the proposal that gives the Department of Buildings power to amend the building code without council approval, as well as any proposal that would automatically sunset or remove the council's authority for voting requirements, are both unlawful. The state constitution only allows legislative power to be in the hands of the city council. So to attempt to move it from the legislative body to another entity, it is a violation of the law.
Understood. I'm going to ask you if you could just bring this to conclusion because you're well past time.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm done.
great.
So any questions?
Thank you so much. I'll invite questions for you from commissioners. I know, of course, that The staff of COGE met with the speaker and her chief of staff at the very beginning of this process, and I know that there were additional meetings with, I believe, with you and the staff, and you had several questions that the staff then returned to respond to. Your point generally about the unprecedented timeline is duly noted. You asked whether or not I and the vice chair would meet, and absolutely would be happy to meet. I'd like to include Secretary Kang in that meeting as well, and we'll do so based on availability, but really appreciate both your testimony here and your rigorous engagement with the team and with this entire process. Questions, comments? Please.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, I served on the city charter previous commission. And while we took long to look at the charter and the things that were implicated, right? There was a bump provision that was exercised by the former mayor that basically invalidated a lot of the work that had been done. So part of this timeline of this is not the control of this commission, just for the record. Just want to make sure that the implication is not somehow that we're rushing through things to get things to take away powers from the council, anybody for that matter. I want that to be very clear.
So two important points. I think that the council agrees that there are a lot of things in the preliminary report that have consensus. And so it makes sense within that short time frame to move forward with the consensus items. But then there are other items that we haven't had real engagement on. And I want to draw a distinction between our conversations we've had with the executive director, which have been based on vague concepts of ideas in the report, as opposed to concrete recommendations where we can really dig our teeth into. So the Adams land use, our council, our central staffers met with the land use team on numerous occasions with detailed recommendations. And even though the end result was not what we wanted, it's shaped by those concrete engagements. And so that's what we're encouraging, to come with specific ideas. Let us have engagement before it shows up in your final report. And that's our good governance request.
You have that commitment from this commission, and I think it was important for us not to get ahead of the public process. We were actually serious about the input that we were receiving from over 600 New Yorkers that have testified, inclusive of experts and folks who are just struggling every day in their communities to try to find ways to make this the most livable city possible. And we did not want to get ahead of their input before we offered detailed recommendations to the mayor and the council. But we are now at a point where we'll be ready, prepared, and excited to be able to engage with you and council leadership. Other comments, questions?
Thank you for your testimony. I wanted to ask, outside of your legal concerns around building code and reporting, whether or not your testimony includes any details on actual recommendations included in the report. Are there?
It does. My colleagues here are the
I know you only have 3
experts.
minutes, and
Yes.
the rest of the gang didn't get to say anything, but
Can
you highlight?
So some of them, so the Rainy Day Fund, our director of finance, could tell you more about it, but there are recommendations detail why it's important to have the details about withdrawals and deposits be part of the legislative process, as opposed to something in the charter that would not give the city its ability to maneuver under specific circumstances. We have details about the reporting requirements and why the council process really works well. And to be frank, the mayor's team of operations is the one that's slowing down the process in terms of increasing the number of reports. There's details about that, as well as sidewalk cafe, leasing. So I really, and I'm sad that my colleagues here can't speak to you, because they could give you more
We
details.
will make all the time in the world to engage with them. We thought it was really important to advantage the general public for this hearing. There'll be plenty of time to engage in formal meetings in City Hall. That's why we could not have testimony from all 5 of them, and just wanted to be able to be in discussion with you. But we'll look forward to more engagement. Thank you so much for this testimony. We're going to now turn to two online participants, Lee Drutman and Brianna Strong. Lee and Brianna, if you can hear us, please begin.
Great, thank you. Good evening. My name is Lee Drutman. I am a political scientist at New America, a think tank in Washington, where I study electoral reform. And I've read essentially the entire academic literature on open and nonpartisan primaries. So I come tonight not as a defender of any party or any incumbent, but as someone who is actually genuinely puzzled by this open parties proposal at this time. Now, it is true that more than 1 million New Yorkers have chosen to register as independents, and as a result, they are unable to vote in the Democratic primaries that often decide the city's election. But this is a choice that they have made, and if it is important for them to vote in a Democratic primary, they are absolutely free to do so. Registering as a Democrat costs nothing. It's as free as a free bus. You just have to show up on time for it. Now, advocates of open primaries will make a number of claims for what opening the primaries to independents will do. And again, as someone who has looked closely at these studies and analyzed much of the data myself, these claims do not hold up. Take the central claim that these systems produce less polarization and more moderate responsive government. Well, I've reviewed every independent academic study testing this claim. And these are dozens of studies published by top academics in top journals, and there is no support for this claim. Of course, multiple studies. And this is not a new idea. We have 3/4 of states that allow independents to vote in primary elections. We have, hundreds of elections in California and Washington State and Alaska. And, again, after decades of research, dozens of studies, the honest answer is that the only studies that torture the data enough to show qualified and tiny positive effects are the ones funded by the very wealthy donors who support this reform. Advocates of open primaries also claim it will fix lower turnout, but New York City doesn't really have a turnout problem for primaries. Last year's Democratic primary was incredibly high participation, the highest since 1989, over 1 million voters. That was expanding on the 2021 record. So turnout in New York City isn't falling, it's actually rising under the very system that this proposal claims to replace. So then there's the claim that the primary is the only election that counts, and I think last year's mayoral race disproved that. Andrew Cuomo lost the Democratic primary, and he still ran in the general election anyway on his own independent line. So any serious primary loser can force a competitive general election if they want one. The general election is open. If the goal is to get real competition and real representation, open primaries aim at the wrong target. The reason that the November election often feels settled isn't the closed primary, it's single-member districts in a one-party city. And the reform that fixes that is the same one.
You're right at time, Lee. You can wrap up.
Which is proportional representation for New York City. So if the folks who are advocating this really want to have everyone cast a meaningful vote in November, why don't they support the reform that would actually accomplish
Please stay on the line in case we have questions for you. Stay with us, Lee. Brianna?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so I'm going to, I guess, maybe pick up where Lee left off. So my name is Brianna Strong. I come before you today because I refuse to accept a democracy that tells more than 1.2 million New York City voters that our voices matter only after the most important decisions have already been made. I live and work in Brooklyn, where I am raising my daughter, who just turned 8 years old, and I am a proud independent because I believe my vote should belong to me, not to a political party. Open primaries are about fairness, equality, and the fundamental promise that every citizen deserves a meaningful voice in government. Every eligible voter pays taxes. Every eligible voter is expected to obey the laws. Every eligible voter is affected by the decisions our elected officials make. Yet, more than 1.2 million independent voters in New York City are shut out of taxpayer funded primary elections. That is wrong. It is taxation without meaningful representation, and it has no place in a city or a nation that claims to value democracy. I am independent because for far too long we have allowed political parties to place their own interests above the interests of the people. We have watched corruption, self-preservation, and partisan gamemanship become so common that gamesmanship becomes so common that many people simply shrug their shoulders and accept it as normal. It is not normal and it should never be acceptable. Government should answer to the people, not the other way around. Every time we ignore an unfair system because it has existed for a long time, we send the message that accountability is optional. You have the opportunity to do something about a system that has become unjust. It is my hope that you will place a proposal for an open primaries on the ballot this November so the people of New York City can decide whether every voter deserves an equal voice. Democracy belongs to the people, no matter how we are registered. I urge you to support open primaries because every voice deserves to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee and Brianna. I see no questions for you, but Lee, I just want to thank you because I'm assuming that you're the Lee Drutman whose piece I read some years back on 10 ways to fix democracy that was in foreign policy. It was a really great piece, and I'm assuming you're the same Professor Lee Drutman. So
I
thank you for
am. I am the same. Yes.
awesome.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate you. Um, Lourdes Blanco and Alvin Carter.
Hola, buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Ajá.
Please, we could if we'll do this any way that works best for you. If it's easier for Lourdes to give her entire testimony and then have you translate, that's fine. Or if she prefers to stop every 30 seconds as you translate, we'll accommodate that as well.
Ok. Eh, Buenas noches, mi nombre es Lourdes Blanco. Tengo 4 años trabajando en NYPD como crossing guard.
Can
yes,
put the mic, share the mic so we can. Yeah.
Repeat.
No, señora, tranquila.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Lourdes Blanco. Tengo 4 años trabajando en NYPD como crossing guard.
Hi, good night. My name is Lourdes Blanco, and it's been 4 years of me working in the NYPD as a crossing guard.
Es importante que haga una aclaratoria que vengo a título personal, no como trabajadora de NYPD.
I just want to make it clear that I'm coming here on my own behalf, and I'm not here as a representative of the NYPD.
Me preocupa que en el día a día de mi trabajo he visto que en este momento las personas no respetan las señales de tránsito.
It worries me that in my day-to-day, in my job, I see people that they do not respect the traffic signals.
Y como persona racional, soy de Venezuela, soy abogado, tengo 5 máster en Derecho, me preocupa y veo la necesidad de que en esta ciudad se pueda proponer o implantar un programa que ayude a las personas, tanto a los estudiantes como la sociedad civil, a que respeten las señales y así poder evitar muchos accidentes que ocurren en el día a día.
So I am from Venezuela. I have a law degree. I have 5 master's degree in law in Venezuela, and it has come to my attention that there is a urgent need for there to be more respect from civil society and also for students to respect the traffic signals in order to avoid accidents.
Yo trabajo en un área bien concurrida ¿verdad? Donde convergen tanto personas civiles como estudiantes. Y el día a día suceden demasiados accidentes que pudieran evitarse.
I work in a very busy area. It's an area where you have normal citizens and students that they converge, and it's a place where there's a lot of accidents occur.
Veo con gran preocupación que las personas me irrespetan a la par de que yo trato de hacer mi trabajo porque me gusta, porque lo amo, y eso a nosotros nos trae problemas en el área laboral, porque generalmente ellos se van a quejar al precinto de que uno le llama la atención, de que uno les grita, y no es así. Uno trata de hacer el trabajo.
And I do my job, and I do it. I love my job, and I love what I do. And it has come to my attention, and it causes me great worry that I get disrespected often when I try to guide people in how to behave or how to maneuver themselves safely. And this has caused a lot of issues because while me and my colleagues we address these problems to other people for them not to get hurt, they go to the precinct and they tell the precinct that we scream at them, that we're not treating them fairly and whatnot.
Motivado por el tiempo, le voy a dar a él la propuesta que yo traigo por escrito, para que él la lea por el factor tiempo, para, no sé, su apreciación o su interés. Gracias.
So because of time, I would like for the interpreter to read the proposal that I've written down or for y'all to take note. And because of time.
Yes, yes, please.
Stage 1, road safety education in schools. The goal would be to create a new culture from childhood. Actions. Practice practical workshops with the different school districts where children interact as pedestrians and drivers. Activities. Invent prevention short films and use playful material for minors to identify what a regulatory, preventive, and informative sign is. Stage 2, community awareness campaigns. Goal, to use empathy and citizen commitment. Actions, promote neighborhood campaigns under slogans related to respect for traffic signs and life. Activities, hand out flyers on the difference between being a pedestrian and being a driver and defensive and pedestrian driving workshops in civic centers. Stage 3, audit and road technology. Goal, monitor compliance and adjust infrastructure. Actions, place smart counting and statistical monitoring devices to identify the most vulnerable intersections. Activities, in high incidence areas, use defensive driving programs, parentheses, such as those approved by the New York DMV driver training programs to reduce violations.
Are we close to the end of the list, or that was it? Great. Thank you so much, and gracias, Lourdes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members, Chair Gaspard. My name is Alvin Carter. I'm the Deputy Director of the Security Division at Local 32BJ. 32BJ is the largest union of property service workers in the country, representing over 175,000 members across 13 states, including tens of thousands of commercial property service workers, residential building staff, and security officers here in New York City. 32BJ supports efforts to improve our city government to be more responsive and effective, and believe that a better city government is a powerful tool to improve the lives of working people. However, we have concerns about some proposed changes to procurement rules. The city, both directly by agencies or DCAS and indirectly through DHS contracted shelter operators, contracted to security companies who employ thousands of officers to keep our government workers, important locations, and some of New York's most vulnerable people safe and secure. These workers, including thousands of unionized security guards, do vital work to keep our cities running. Unfortunately, the city often fails to take into account when workers are represented by a union in its decision to renew or replace contractors. In the past 12 months alone, over 100 unionized contracted guards at city agencies and contracted shelters have faced displacement and the threat of disruption of health benefits they and their families rely on because the city or its contractors replaced its security contractors with a contractor that refused to recognize the employees' union. Put bluntly, the city and its contracted shelter operators facilitate the lowering of job standards for security officers. The solution to the problem likely do not lie in the charter, and we continue to engage with the administration to find a resolution. However, we worry that some charter proposals could exacerbate the problem. The preliminary report proposes limiting public notification requirements for some contracts. Oftentimes, city public reporting requirements are how we learn the city or its contractors are planning to replace security contractors. Public notifications with ample lead time are vital to making sure that guards can hold incoming contractors accountable to existing displaced worker ordinances and prepare for potential changes, terms, and conditions of employment, including the possible cessation of health benefits. Without this notice, workers could be blindsided by these changes. Proposals to limit this reporting must still allow workers sufficient time
You're
to
at
act.
time. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for your testimony. Emma?
Thank you. I was whispering to the chair and he correctly said I should make the public comment about it. I just wanted to thank you for your testimony. As a crossing guard, you're helping to keep kids safe, which is incredible, and doing a service. But really, I also want to talk about the fact that it's a example of what can happen when you create a venue for folks who are doing the work day in and day out, who are seeing where culture change and operational change can happen. So I'm sure the staff will take under advisement. It doesn't sound like it's about the charter, but it is a great example for what can happen when you go out to the world and listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry, please.
¿Qué número es el precinto suyo?
5115.
Gracias.
Henry, can you share with the?
I asked what precinct.
Yes, I just
what
want to make
precinct?
sure I want to
Sorry.
hit you.
No. As everybody knows, our union represents crossing guards, and we have a crossing guards council on recommendations. Some of the things that she proposed today, I'd like to forward them to the crossing guard council for implementation, and that's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. I understood what you were asking, but as somebody who has a mother who retired as a DC 37 crossing guard, I just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to say that. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you both. I see that we've been joined by Council Member Gail Brewer. I want to ask the council member to join us I'm gonna, no, you can't. We can ask the council member to join us. And I'd also like to invite Michelle Jackson to the table as well.
She can go. Let her go.
Say Gail. Gail, please. I'm going to ask staff to take your name so that we can at least check to see where you are in the queue, because there are so many others who've signed up. It's hard to hear. So, are you saying that you have to depart now?
Yes. Accessorize.
Oh, your accessor. I'm so sorry. It was hard to hear. Your accessorite is here, and you'd like an opportunity. That's right.
Have her speak.
You have to forgive me the way the acoustics work in here. Are you saying that your accessorite is here and you're hoping to speak before you leave? If I apologize. I would invite you to come and speak now, if they can wait another spell, sorry. Thank you. Oh, it's Judy. I am so very sorry, Judy, that you didn't have an opportunity to testify.
Deep shit.
You're
Guys, these some deep shit now.
if there's any way that staff can help maybe to have the accessory ride wait longer, we'd love to take Judy's testimony. See if she can work this out. In the interim, we'll engage with Gail, but we'll stop if you're able to make the accessory ride.
Maybe I can
wait.
work it out if you want to wait.
Gail,
I'll
get her
work it out.
get her a car to Chelsea.
I think we can get you back to Chelsea.
I shouted out where you live.
Please, council member.
I do too know where she lives. All right, thank you very much. I am Gail Brewer. I represent the Upper West Side, Clinton, and part of the city council in Central Park. So I do want to thank you. I have to say that it's a good report. I appreciate being mentioned in it in terms of wanting a permit instead of revocable consent, because I didn't know what the hell revocable consent is, nor does anybody else. And I also just want, there's a lot of good issues listed. Streamlining is important, but there are so many challenges. I'm very familiar with charter revision. With Tish James in 2018, we passed a law that made a charter revision commission that had input from the controller, public advocate, the council, and the mayor. And one of the outcomes was advice and consent for corporation council, ironically, has played a role. But I have some concerns. Reporting requirements which are listed. Esther Fuchs, working in the Bloomberg administration, suggested a report and advisory board review commission with inclusion from the city council reviewing all reports. And I have to say, they should meet and they should do their job. I don't know that we need to have a second discussion on that same topic. Sidewalk cafes. As a former community board member, Manhattan Borough president, where I appointed them, and as a council member, I reviewed the sidewalk cafe applications. Very few get called up for council review. So any slowdown in the process is due to a city agency's lack of staff or challenges, not due to the community board and the city council. So I just think that it should continue as is. At the same time, Lincoln Wrestler is negotiating the roadside. And I know according to your report and real life, there is some confusion between sidewalk cafe and cafes in the roadside. But I think we should wait until he does his negotiation and see if anything needs to be done. It could be done legislatively if we need changes. Major transportation projects. To my surprise, the issue of transportation has way taken over constituent interest from housing. It used to be tenants, and now it's DOT. Every day, it could be street permits for street openings, for Con Ed. It's all about bike lanes, bus lanes, open streets, street lights, bus stop locations. Everything is DOT. And so I worry that there isn't enough notification and people having input. How do you streamline it and continue the input? I don't know, but that's what has to be done. East River Park was a nightmare. That wasn't when I was borough president, but we had input. Office space. I think that the commissioner of DCAS walks on water. So she did call and she had discussion about the leasing process. She gave the stupidest example of a building right now leased to the city that is just wants an extra room in the basement for something or other. That should not go through a process. So there is a possibility of a medium in terms of figuring out what has or has not, hi Judy, could or could not be done in terms of leasing. I am for whatever Hume is for. Rulemaking. When Patricia Lancaster was the commissioner in 2002-8, she had a huge effort. She redid the entire building code. It's complicated, hard to put on a ballot. You really got to have stakeholders in the room. I don't know that it could be understood. Rainy day fund. There have to be guidelines and procedures for funding and withdrawing. I agree, but I don't know that it should be any extra money surplus goes to the fund. I think that does usurp the power of the council, as I said so earlier. What to do? DOI, I think you've heard from others. It has a lot of need to incorporate. There must be no removal of the DOI commissioner. They need to be strengthened, fixed terms, and they need a minimum budget. Same thing for COGE. They need a minimum budget. And the lobbying bureau needs to get out of the office of city clerk and go to COGE. You know better than I about the procurement process. You've heard a lot about it. It needs help. And Marla Simpson couldn't figure it out. I don't know if I can figure it out. So I will just say, talk to Marla. But there has to be a focus on workforce and training. CCRB still needs attention. I just want to list, finally, what are people interested in? Quality of life. How do you get a copy of a police report electronically? You have to go to person, signing one's name and other information on consent forms for social services. So many times you have to sign. So many problems with screen renewal, SNAP renewal, City FEPS renewal, Section 8 renewal, lack of language access, puddles of dirty water on street intersections after a rainfall. Disabled drivers can't get renewal permits, and guess what? Transportation with accessoride listed right here.
Councilmember, we're going to ask you to just take 20 more seconds to
Well, so
wrap.
I wanted to say there's a long list of things that I will submit of what people are concerned about. I don't think that the issues that I have listed should be on the ballot. They're too complicated. They usurp the city council, and I think you should be much more nuanced about what goes on. The ones I listed should not go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. So Judy, you were next in queue, so I just asked us to shuffle this. And Michelle was kind enough to agree to it. So if you could provide your testimony now, and forgive me, but this is my own vanity and not putting on my glasses, because I should have realized that only Judy would have interrupted in that way. And I always welcome your interruptions.
I appreciate the recognition, Ambassador. Thank you. Yeah, and Christina Sparrow was testifying with me. So could we get her up here as well?
Yes, but I will ask you to please start if you can.
Sure. I have been a community public health advocate for over 40 years. I won't tell you how many more than that. And I'm testifying tonight as an individual. But what I want to talk about is public health is really important, and it's been largely ignored by the mayoral administration, by the city right now. And, we just lost 450,000 people just lost health insurance because of not only federal stuff, but state inaction. So that there are a lot more people without insurance, and they don't go to the fancy hospitals because they don't get seen there. Carlina can verify that with me. So I was part of Healthcare Workers Forum, the public policy committee of it. We wrote some really good stuff. I was excited about it, and I don't get excited about everything except if I can't testify. And yeah, that's it. Tell them off. So
He's testified to be there in a little while.
Only in New York. Please, Judy, if you could continue.
This is very funny, or not. Anyway, what I want to say is that there were some really, really good proposals. I only brought one copy of this, but I would hope that this commission or whoever is going to do it is going to look at it. It's penny wise and pound foolish, that old stupid saying, to not provide preventive and primary care, particularly to people that are not going to have access. And there are rich institutions that call themselves voluntary, nonprofit hospitals that have a lot of money. And there are ways of tapping that money and making sure that it goes to the safety net healthcare providers in communities where people should be able to get their care. Again, some of those proposals are in here. There are people that are not just me, Rex is one, and Christina is another, and there are others who, would be ready and available talk about it. I strongly urge all to please pay attention to this and do
We
so.
will. We will. Thank you so
And
very
good.
much, Judy.
It's nice to see you again.
It's good to see you always.
Side, right?
Miss the Lower East Side. Judy, thank you so much. Because we're almost at 8 o'clock, Judy, I'm gonna have the commissioners direct their questions to Councilmember Brewer if they have any for her. And we'll, of course, be in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you. And as the and as we take questions for the Councilmember Michelle, if you could rejoin, you'll have an opportunity in a moment. Questions for the council member? Questions, comments?
I guess, how are you?
I'm
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. The question is, I'm trying to be clear. Your position is that anything that is too obscure should not be on the ballot?
There were in the report, there were some good ideas. I didn't mention the good ideas timelines, but you know, things on revocable consent, for instance, or things on the bonding. No, those are complicated, but these, I think, cut the power of the city council, and that's why I'm concerned. So it's more, but I will also say, having been through, as you have, all of these many charters, they usually pass, you know, even if it's complicated, because people don't know what they're voting for, be honest with you. The only time which was frustrating was, and Carlina will remember, when the word minority women business appeared, everything on that charter passed except the word minority, and they vote against it. So it's a fickle population voting when it comes to charter. You have to get it right. And so I worry that these would usurp some of the power of the city council. On the other hand, there are other complicated things, bonding and other things on that doesn't usurp the council's power.
So just to be clear, your position is that anything that is proposed to this charter that you believe would usurp the power of the council should not be on the ballot.
I think it should be discussed either at the council with the city or legislatively and have a different approach. Maybe there's an issue to be dealt with, but I don't think it should go this route.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the council member? Okay, Michelle, would you like to provide your testimony?
Yes.
Council
Hello.
member, thank you so much. If you have to go, thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Jackson. I'm the Executive Director of the Human Services Council. We represent over 180 human service providers in New York City. I will be very quick because you've heard much testimony about procurement reform, and that's what I'm here to talk tonight. In my testimony, I have outlined a number of very clear places where the Charter Revision Commission could take on procurement reform to help eliminate the delays in payment that nonprofits face. You heard from two of my members earlier about what these delays look like for nonprofits. I have been giving the same testimony since 2010 on the chart. I looked it up. There's some new faces and old faces that I have made this testimony to and for. Hi, Kathy. We've done this before. Kathy could probably do my testimony for me. And the reason I say that is more important than my recommendations is because every charter revision commission has decided not to pick this up. They have said the council will legislate, there's another fix, there's a new administration coming in, and it continues to be a persistent, problem. We got HHS Accelerator, it got better, Passport made it a little worse, we get a new administration, they make it a little better, and then it gets worse. Including the last Charter Revision Commission felt that the 50% cash advance would be something that would help, and that the Charter Revision Commission maybe didn't need to pick up procurement reform. And as we saw just a couple of weeks ago, that 50% advance was threatened to not go through on July 1. And I think that's a very clear illustrative example of why we need the Charter Revision Commission. I realize that you are all on an abbreviated timeline. And if you don't feel that this Charter Revision Commission could pick it up, there needs to be a recommendation that a Charter Revision Commission absolutely focuses just on procurement reform, not just for nonprofits, but also for, construction and other. Procurement has not had a revision in decades. And this has a real impact. You heard from some members. I have organizations who have a $20 million line of credit fully extended for the city of New York. I have people who pay $80,000 a month in line of credits, and our recommendations are to create clear timeframes to ensure that the PPB has to meet quarterly, They do not do that. And that's an area where there would be much needed transparency. And we actually have clear in my testimony where you could write these pieces into the charter. So I'll let you all read that at your leisure, but just wanted to really say that this is a really important topic that Charter Revision Commissions, legislation, others have failed to really crack the nut on how to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We have a question for you, but as we take the question, I just want to just note to everyone who's here, if you had hoped to be able to testify, clearly we're at 8 p.m. Already, and I will ask you to please submit your written testimony to the commission. We're going to have an opportunity to hear just from one last person here, and that's Eric Huntley. I'll ask Eric to please begin to come forward to the table and to the microphone, but that will be the last testimony that we received tonight. Question for Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for your testimony. I just wanted to ask, I know you're speaking specifically on procurement and the delay of payments. Do you have thoughts on or comments or recommendations on the role that OMB plays in the delay of payments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the role of OMB from contract registration, they have to approve a budget, and that can delay a contract registration, but it's also part of the process, and OMB has to approve the budget. But then we've also found over the last few years that OMB has played an outside role. Not necessarily that that's bad, but they have in the invoicing and budget modification, so post-contract registration, there's been a lot of OMB back and forth about approving budgets, approving modifications. For example, there's something called the indirect cost rate initiative that went into place about 6 years ago. We have in the Department for the Aging, we have organizations who for 6 years have not been paid for their indirect cost rate. And you can decide where that's coming from. Like they'll just battle it back. Like, is it an OMB? Is it is it a confusing thing? And so I think there's a role for OMB in this process. And I think this is where the Charter Revision Commission could be remarkably helpful is by setting guideposts. It doesn't matter, OMB will have to approve an invoice in a certain period of time. They'll have to approve a budget for a new contract in a certain period of time. And I think those guardrails will make it so that regardless of who's at OMB, the role that the mayor wants to play in oversight and things like that, that there'll be really clear, consistent guidelines of you have to pay on time. And if you don't, there's interest penalties, which are super important. And so it'll help establish, I think, better, phases for where the budget needs to go.
Thank you.
Kathy.
So I don't know if you have in your testimony specific language and timeframes that you would suggest. If you don't, would you write up what you think and share it with us?
Absolutely. We do have specific language right now that does not have time frames, but it says where the time frame language should be and that the procurement policy board should establish those time frames. There was a local law that was passed 2 years ago that asked the mayor's office of contract services to lay out how long it takes and ideally to establish timeframes. And all they did was lay out how long it takes, which is over 500 days, by the way, from when a contract is awarded to when it's registered. But they did not ask us to or they did not give ideas of how long timeframe should be. So we would be happy to follow up with you all and say what we think some timeframe should be.
Quickly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We can't engage with you any further now, but obviously you've piqued all of our interest in this and appreciate your testimony, your contributions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Eric is the last person whose testimony we're receiving this evening. Eric, there won't be time for lengthy Q&A with you at all, but we welcome your testimony. And as we hear from you, Eric, I want to just thank Councilmember Gail Brewer. I just want to note to everybody here, Councilmember Brewer is not a Queens representative. She's a representative on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And it's clear that even if we had this hearing on the dark side of the moon, Gail Brewer would be there to represent the interest of all New Yorkers. And as a commission, we're just so inspired by her and grateful for the leadership that she brings every day. Please, Eric.
Good evening, commissioners of the New York City Commission of Government Efficiency. My name is Eric, and I am a proud Black restaurant worker. I have spent more than 20 years working in New York City restaurants industry. I have served customers, trained new workers, work holidays, weekends, late nights, and long shifts. to make sure the city keeps moving. I am here today to ask you to put a charter amendment before voters that says New York City should not give out uh, outdoor dining, eatery license to businesses that do not pay their workers a living wage. For more than 2 decades, I have watched restaurant workers work harder than anyone, yet still struggle to make ends meet. I have seen coworkers skip meals, worry about rent, and choose between paying bills and taking care of their families. Hard work should not mean living in constant struggle. As a Black worker, I have seen how this system has held back our communities. Too many Black and brown workers are doing essential jobs, but are still not able to build a secure future for themselves or their families. A business license is a privilege. The city already makes sure businesses follow health and safety rules. Make sure workers are paid enough to live should be just as important. I have worked for restaurant owners who paid fair wages and respected their employees. Those businesses have stronger teams, less turnover, and workers who were proud to be there. When workers are valued, everyone benefits. After 20 years in this industry, I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for dignity. I want to retire knowing that my years of hard work matter. I want the next generation of restaurant workers to have a better chance than we did. New York City should not give outdoor dining, outdoor dining, um, license, outdoor eating license to businesses that keep workers in poverty. If you want the privilege of doing business in our city, you should pay the people who make your success possible enough to live.
Eric, I'm going to ask that you end right on that exclamation point, because you're at your overtime. But I'm really glad that we're able to get your testimony in. Thank you for the moral clarity in your testimony. Appreciate you. Thank you to everyone who testified this evening, and to everyone who testified across all of our hearings. Special thanks to the staff of the Queens Borough Hall, our stenographer, our sign language interpreters, who have made all of our meetings accessible, inclusive, and welcoming. The final public hearing of this commission will be a procedural meeting without public testimony. At that time, we'll review and vote on the final ballot proposals that we advance. This meeting is not yet scheduled. When it is, notification will be published and posted to our website and across all the platforms that we've used for outreach for these meetings. I'd like to bring this meeting to a close. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned.